afternoon and welcome to a CNN Philippines special presentation. I'm Cherry Mercado. In the coming hour, we will be hosting a senatorial forum live at the University Theater at UP Diliman so we can get to know some of our senatorial bets in next year's midterm elections. Our very own chief anchor and correspondent Pia Ontiveros and senior anchor and correspondent Pinky Webb will be moderating this forum. Let's go straight now to Joyce Ilas, who's standing by at UP. Joyce, tell us what the viewers can expect this afternoon.
Cherry, the stage is set here at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, for CNN Philippines' first senatorial forum for the 2019 midterm elections. Today, we get to know 8 of our senatorial candidates as we ask them questions on some of the most pressing issues in our country today. And joining us in the forum today are Magdalo Party List Representative Gary Alejano, Senator Bam Aquino, former PNP Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa, human rights lawyer Chel Jokno, Senator J.V. Ejercito, former Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, former Senator Serge Osmeña, and former Presidential Advisor on Political Affairs Francis Tolentino. The forum will be divided into 6 major topics: economy, telecommunications, transportation and infrastructure, peace and order, foreign policy, governance, corruption and politics, and environment. Now, you can watch the forum live on TV starting at 5 p.m. We will also be live streaming the senatorial forum on CNN Philippines Facebook account and on our website www.cnnphilippines.com. That's starting at 4:45 in the afternoon. Now, if you have anything you want to ask our senatorial candidates, you may join the conversation by leaving a comment or question on our Facebook account and on our Twitter account. That's at CNN Philippines. Back to you, Cherry.
Joyce, can you give us an idea who are in the audience and where are the questions going to come from?
Cherry, we expect UP Theater here at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, to be filled with students, also supporters of the senatorial candidates, and even decision makers from the private sectors. Many of them have already arrived here as early as an hour ago, and they are wearing the colors of their candidates. That's for the supporters. Now, CNN Philippines prepared some questions for the senatorial candidates, but we will also be getting questions from the live audience inside the theater and also those who are watching online from Facebook and even from Twitter. So those who want to join the conversation, you may leave your comments and questions on our Facebook account and Twitter account. Back to you, Cherry.
Okay, thank you very much, Joyce Ilas, reporting there from UP Diliman in Quezon City. So our viewers can also ask questions by going to CNN Philippines social media accounts and put your questions there on Facebook and on Twitter. Don't miss the CNN Philippines special presentation live at the University Theater at UP Diliman at 5 o'clock this afternoon. We will be live streaming this forum on cnnphilippines.com as well as on Facebook. Our midterm elections are still about 5 months away come May 2019, but we believe here in CNN Philippines that it's never too early to start to get to know our senatorial candidates. And joining me here in the studio are political analyst Ed Tayao, Ramon Casiple, and former COMELEC Commissioner Gregorio Larrazabal. So we will be talking about each of our candidates in alphabetical order, para fair, hindi ba? And we'll only be talking about the ones who are participating in the forum today. So there are 8 of them. Going by alphabetical order, there's Gary Alejano, there's Bam Aquino, Ronald Bato de la Rosa, we have Chel Jokno, J.V. Ejercito, who's a re-electionist, Juan Ponce Enrile, Serge Osmeña, and Tolentino. So let's first begin with Gary Alejano. So what do we know about Gary Alejano? Alejano is the first and only person to date to file an impeachment complaint against President Rodrigo Duterte. The complaint was dismissed by the House of Representatives, dominated by the allies of President Duterte. So what do you think about Gary Alejano? Soldier turned legislator. How was his performance as a legislator? And what do you think would people remember? Do people remember about him?
Well, he's supposed to be in the footsteps of Senator Trillanes. They are together in the Magdalo party. And I think what he did in his stint as a congressman basically follows the footsteps. Even the question of impeachment complaint was understandable. In all the issues, in fact, so far in the past 2.5 years, had been all issues against the president.
Ganun ba? So parang ang issue ba dito, do we want another Senator Trillanes in the Senate?
Basically, you'll
Parang
see.
gano'n, ano. In fact, Senator Trillanes was there when he filed his certificate of candidacy. And I think he will be in UP today in support for Gary
so, too.
Alejano.
Yes. I think the point here is he will continue the work of Senator Trillanes, and I think the voters should ask themselves, do they want that type of opposition to continue in the Senate after 2019?
Professor Tayo, do you think his background as a soldier still matters to, or should it matter to voters?
Well, at least as far as all previous former soldiers who became members of the House of Representatives and Senator actually had a good track record and performance. Again, same question that was posed by my colleagues here. It depends now whether the public appreciates Senator Trillanes and would want another similar, if not the same type of senator that will basically take over from Senator Trillanes.
Medyo tumaas na rin ang ranking niya, ha? In the beginning, earlier, maaga pa rin naman ngayon, ano? He was number 44 to 62 rank in the Pulse Asia survey. I think the recent SWS survey, he's number 22. No? So let's move on now to Liberal Party Senator Bam Aquino naman. Ito, we're showing... okay, let's move on to Liberal Party Senator Bam Aquino, who is seeking his second term under the Liberal Party banner. So si Bam Aquino naman recently is in the 13th ranking in the SWS survey. Do you think the surveys matter this early?
Actually, nagbago na eh. I mean, what I remember, at least since 2004, the senators have not been, the surveys have not been able to really predict or at least come close to the actual results. Take note that, for example, when the first time Senator Grace Poe ran, she was ranked between 8 to 13, and then suddenly she was number 1. And the same thing with now the President Duterte. He was not anywhere near number 1, at least, in the presidential race then, but then suddenly he became number 1. Now, there's something interesting with Senator Bam, because whether we like it or not, his name is an Aquino. So, again, the same thing works with Congressman Alejano. If they think that the name Aquino still carries weight, then he will still enjoy the same popularity he enjoyed when he first ran as senator.
I think one thing that should be pointed out na that surveys actually guide their tools to help candidates. They're not supposed to be used as basis on whether or not a person will vote for a particular candidate or not. So even if
maganda yan, paliwanag sa mga viewers.
Exactly.
Kasi minsan, di ba, what is the use to us voters of these early surveys? It's actually for candidates.
It's for candidates. For example, I'm not going to vote for a particular candidate just because he has a particular rank. No, I'll vote for a particular candidate because I think he or she can do well in the Senate. You look at their legislative track record, what they did before, what are their record of delivering on their promises. Forget muna about the surveys, because the surveys, again, are not supposed to be for the voters. They're for the candidates to help them win, but not be used as a basis for the voters to choose a candidate.
See their strategy this early, no? What are you doing right? Professor Mon, your thoughts on Bam Aquino?
Actually, it's too early. People or voters don't think seriously about their votes until maybe starting around January, February. So,
What about BAM? Your thoughts about BAM?
yeah, well, if you're thinking ranking, the name speaks for itself. So it would be, in fact, I think at the end of the day, the vote for him will be a vote on the name Aquino.
Correct.
So
Okay.
he cannot get away from that.
Okay, meanwhile, also joining the senatorial race is former Philippine National Police Chief and Bureau of Corrections Head General Ronald Bato de la Rosa. Ito, first-timer. Diba? In the October SWS survey, General Bato placed number 10. Pasok agad siya sa Magic 12, at least as far as the survey is concerned. And some of his stand, pag nahalal daw siya bilang senador, he will fight for the revival of the death death penalty for grievous crimes, for heinous crimes, and lowering the age of criminal liability. He's
That's
also for
pending in
that.
Congress
no?
now, right? Yeah, that's pending.
So, what do you think? Former PNP chief, the only other sitting senator, Senator Lacson, was a former PNP chief. He'll be the second if ever, no?
Well, definitely has a separate political base because he was not known as a politician before. So, a vote for him would definitely be a vote on the anti-drug campaign. He cannot also escape from that. And
On the anti-drug campaign, not necessarily on President Duterte.
no, not President Duterte, but I think it would be a factor if the endorsement happens from President Duterte, meaning President Duterte will campaign for him.
Your thoughts, Professor Ed?
Well, sana hindi lang yung revival ng death penalty yung pinupush. Or if i-revive yun, alam mo kasi yun yung kulang sa klase ng politika natin. No? We don't look at issues as systemic as possible. So, I mean, studies have already proven yung death penalty does not necessarily deter crime. Sana ang palakasin, and he was the chief PNP himself before, ang palakasin yung forensic capacity ng police. No, para hindi tayo dependent sa eyewitnesses, especially if you're prosecuting a crime. No? Kaso hindi nga ganun eh. So, bago natin puntahan yung death penalty, ayusin muna natin yung prosecution and pati yung fiscal, no? Part nung
Sistema
ng legal
sa
system.
loob ng pulisya, sa loob ng...
Hindi lang sa pulisya, yung sa
justice
fiscal
system.
pa lang.
Aha, sa fiscal. Okay.
Alam mo, meron lang recently lang isang ka nakakita fiscal, no? Ang penalty hindi kasama doon sa ang tawag dito, kumbaga kahit yung fiscal mismo minsan nagagamit, no? Just so that a personal issue can be prosecuted. So dapat ayusin yung sistema.
What do you think? Will he just be echoing the stand of the president?
It might be. If you ask people on the ground, they would probably say that what General Bato de la Rosa will probably mimic what the president says, no? With regards his policies, it's bringing back the death penalty, lowering the age of prosecution for children. I would like to hear more about his economic policies. I mean, say once, if and when he wins, what does he intend to do for not only the PNP but for the economy? Kasi that's 6 years, and you need to know what they stand for with regards not just the drug campaign but issues that will affect everyone on a daily basis.
You're gonna judge him na as a senatorial candidate.
Oh yes, hindi na, not as a chief of the Philippine National Police because tapos na yan eh. The job requirements of a senator is vastly different from that of running the Philippine National Police.
Very good insight. We will continue this conversation after a short break. We are currently discussing the qualifications and the backgrounds of each of our senatorial candidates who are participating in the CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum this afternoon. And this forum happens at 5 o'clock in the afternoon today at the University Theater at UP Diliman. And we have 8 senatorial bets participating. So don't miss that. You're watching CNN Philippines. Please stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Cherry Mercado, and this is a CNN Philippines special presentation as we count down to our senatorial forum that's happening at 5 p.m. at the University Theater at UP Diliman. In the meantime, here's a quick check of the other stories we are following today. Motorists can look forward to more savings as oil companies reduce fuel prices for the 8th straight week. Phoenix Petroleum cut gasoline and diesel prices by 2 pesos per liter yesterday, while Petrogas announced the same price cut to take effect at 6 a.m. on Tuesday, December 4th. PTT Philippines also announced a fuel price rollback. Gasoline prices will be reduced by 2 pesos per liter and diesel prices by 2 pesos and 10 centavos starting Tuesday, December 4th. Shell and Sea Oil announced the same price rollback and 2 pesos per liter off their kerosene products starting next week. Other oil companies are expected to make the same price reductions following changes in the international petroleum market. In sports, the Ateneo Blue Eagles have drawn first blood in the UAAP Finals. The Blue Eagles outclassed the UP Fighting Maroons in Game 1 at the Mall of Asia Arena. Final score was 88-79. Ateneo now leads this best-of-3 series 1-0. Game 2 is on Wednesday, December 5th at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. More than 18,000 seats are up for grabs in the May 13th midterm elections, but only 12 seats will be contested in the upper chamber of Congress. In less than an hour, CNN Philippines will be asking the hard questions to 8 of these senatorial candidates. That's our UP setup. No, diyan uupo yung 8 kandidato mamaya na makakasama natin. Ano? Pero dito po sa studio, kasama pa rin natin ang mga political analyst na si Ginoong Ed Tayaw, Ramon Casiple, and former COMELEC Commissioner Goyo Larrazabal to talk about the next 3 candidates. So dito na tayo. But you know, medyo tight kasi 12 ang seats. But there are incumbents. There are a lot of incumbents running, di ba? And may ano yan di ba? May partido.
May comebacking,
partida.
may comebacking senators rin di ba?
May comebacking
They have the
senators.
track record, actually. They won.
They won They won.
It's a big factor.
Pero may mga dating comebacking senators na hindi na nakaka-comeback. So,
Of course.
Yes,
actually,
that's a good point.
pag tinignan mo ang mga botante, nagbabago ang voting behavior. So we cannot discount yung mga newcomers, like for example, this next candidate that we're to talk about. The more important thing really is how much the public will get to know about a particular candidate, and if this particular candidate gets to the interest of the public, then most likely baka makapasok yan.
Sabi nga nila, mahirap mamili for this particular midterm elections. Kasi nga, 12 lang and marami kang...
Masikip.
Masikip.
Sobrang masikip.
No,
Hindi, tsaka
maraming matunog
masyadong
na
divided
pangalan.
ng politika na natin ngayon. Ano? I mean, you can very well say na, I mean, if you look at this president, dapat yung tinatawag na honeymoon period has long been gone already. No? Pero pag sinabi mong tapos na yung honeymoon period, more than half of the public pulse is no longer with the president. This president remains particularly popular, no? And apart from that, yung galit, talagang galit din naman. So, you wouldn't really say exactly how it's going to play out.
And you were saying kanina, itong susunod na candidate na pag-uusapan natin, you cannot discount him even if he's a first try niya sa Senate, no? Chel Diokno. Your thoughts, Professor Mon Casiple?
Well, Chel Diokno, of course, also depends on the name. Because he is not a politician. The father is. So, malaking usapin dito. Yung Diokno ba na pangalan still rings a bell. Ano?
Marami sa mga botante natin, mga
Millennials.
kabataan, diba?
Actually, may problem siya. I think uphill battle
50%.
talaga yan. He has to get
Kailangan
to
niya
know again
magpakilala.
his voters.
Well, we don't really have anything to work on kasi he's not been in public office since. This is his first try and venture into public office, so there's no track record to speak of. What you can see is his track record as a counsel and his advocacies for human rights. No,
Correct.
I think you go from there, but you have to ask him what are his policies that he will undertake if and when he wins as senator that will affect us on a daily basis. That's what's important. Food on the table, what are his plans for the Philippines in the future? Those are the things, those are the hard questions that should be asked of him.
Oo, kasi ngayon yung kanyang human rights, because he's a human rights lawyer,
Exactly.
he's known for that. And yun ang issue ngayon kay Pangulong Duterte, no? But it can't just be the
It can't
issue,
be
as
just
you're
that.
saying. Let me just read a little bit of Chel Diokno, no? He's still part of the Manlaban sa EJK. It's a coalition of legal experts, no, that campaigns against supposedly extrajudicial killings. He was among the legal counsels of retired Davao policeman SPO3 Arturo Las Cañas, who alleged that President Duterte formed and controlled the Davao Death Squad. And of course, his father fiercely fought the Marcos dictatorship. Your thoughts, Professor Ed?
Yeah, I basically agree with all that they said. No? I mean, if you look at the registry of voters now, if I'm not mistaken, it's almost 50% of registered voters are millennials. Now, having said that, it could go either way again because if you look at how millennials vote, no, they look more on the track record. So if the track record would interest the millennial voter, he certainly could get the support he needs.
Ang huli niyang standing sa SWS survey was number 23 to 24. So
bit
let's
far.
see. Medyo malayo pa, no?
But the election is still a few months away. so,
Malayo
yeah.
pa. We're still 5 months away, no? But as we said, it's never too early to get to know these candidates. We move on to our next candidate, J.V. Ejercito, of course, the son of former President Joseph Estrada. In September, the re-electionist senator said he would likely leave his father's political party, and he also said he has not spoken to his father in a long time. So, meron ding issue about using Estrada or Ejercito, hindi ba? Pag-usapan muna natin yon, especially with you, Commissioner, no? Maari daw siyang makonsider na nuisance candidate pag ginamit niya
No,
ang
he cannot.
Estrada. Hindi
No,
naman.
I checked the records and it appears that Senator Ejercito did use the Estrada name in the previous elections where he ran and won as a senator. No, so I don't think there's a problem there. I think there was just a misunderstanding. So, having
Pero
said
paano
that,
pag sinulat nila Estrada,
No,
is that
it's just
Jinggoy or JV?
it's just shading lang.
Shading.
Shading
Yeah,
nga
kasi
pala. Oo nga pala.
that's a good thing about it is basically you focus on the numbers. So I think on the side issue, COMELEC should make sure that the list of candidates for senator should be finalized as soon as possible so the candidates will know what their numbers are on the ballots. But at least they can start campaigning with a particular number.
So most likely magkasunod yan sila.
Oo, magkasunod yan. Magkasunod yan
Oo.
dalawa.
How do voters see that? Estrada versus Estrada.
Estrada is more popular than Ejercito.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why he wants to change his name.
As a senator, marami naman siyang na-file na bills. He filed 117 Senate bills and 18 Senate
And the
resolutions.
universal healthcare bill.
Yes,
passed by him.
universal healthcare bill, correct.
That's a really good bill.
Tsaka medyo may pagka-maverick itong senador na to. I mean, you can very well look at his pronouncements on anti-political dynasty. And if you look at San Juan, for example, who are they supporting to take the place of his mom? So, in other words, you can very well say that this guy walks the talk. But again, it depends on how the public will react to his politics.
Sa tingin nyo, fearless forecast, the two Estradas,
Too early.
sinong
For me,
papasok?
it's too early. Too early.
Papasok
Yeah,
pareho,
mahirap eh.
isa,
Usually, nangunguna si Jinggoy sa survey. Pero surveys at this time is not really an indicator.
There is one thing that Senator J.V. Ejercito has with him. He belongs to a big political party, and I think that will play a factor in the elections in next year. He belongs to one of the biggest political parties, so I think that's a plus factor for him.
Okay, we move on to the next candidate. Ito na ang pinaka-veteranong lawmaker.
No doubt about it.
Hoping for a Senate comeback is former Senator Juan Ponce Enrile. He's, of course, 94 years old, and he says he can still meet the demands of the Senate job, this amid concerns on his health. Enrile was previously charged with plunder due to his alleged involvement in the pork barrel scam. He was released in 2015 for humanitarian reasons. So there's so many things to talk about, but let's narrow it down. What should we talk about when we say JPE?
Well, experience, and there's a veritable source of discussion, no, as far as the background of the senator is concerned. I mean, if you talk about ups and downs, that's literally ups and downs as far as the senator is concerned. So
Pagdaanan niya halos lahat.
yeah, hindi mo masasabi yung comeback capacity niya, no? I mean, if you talk to the guy, he's really not just a veteran. He really knows what he talks about when he opens his mouth.
Do you think he still has something to offer, Professor Casiple?
Well,
Or do we give chance to the newbies?
he himself admits that there's nothing more. He just wants to serve the people, he said. And you have to take his word for that. I don't think there's any surprise left with Enrile.
Is this a way to maybe lighten the cases against him? Is that part of it or no?
Well, to be honest with you, I spoke to him just a few months ago, no? And he spoke to us mainly because I was part of the consultative committee that drafted federal Philippine Constitution, and he came up with this own commentary on the draft Constitution. So apparently, at least as far as what he says, he wants to be in the Senate because he's anticipating that a draft Constitution will be discussed in the Senate, and he wants to take part in it.
Nabanggit nga niya yun, yung parang
Yeah.
meron siyang gustong linawin at gusto niyang ibigay yung kanyang mga thoughts about
Well,
federalism.
his mind is still clear.
Ay, grabe.
Definitely, it's not affected.
Definitely.
You know, that's what we noticed. That's why parang for the voters, they shouldn't discount him if just for the age.
Yeah.
Oo, kasi ano pa rin, sharp pa rin.
Exactly. And but I would like to know again, what does he plan to do if he does win? What does he plan to do in the next 6 years? He has, if you talk about institutional knowledge, he has that,
Yes.
more than enough of that. So with the moves to amend and revise the Constitution, I think his insights will help. But it's up to the voters, and a lot, like Professor Tayo said, there's a lot of millennial voters now who might have voted for him before. So how do you reach out to them now?
That's right.
That's a big question there.
What about his case? Meron pa bang ano yun? Does that have a weight on the consideration of the voters?
Alam mo kasi wala yatang, meron na bang nakulong talaga na nagkaroon ng kaso? I mean, ever since. Yung problema eh.
There was at least an official who was jailed, and while in jail won and served the whole term while in jail. So I don't think it really matters for some voters, no.
Okay. This is a CNN's Philippines special presentation. We have 8 senatorial candidates that will be joining us live this afternoon at the University of the Philippines. We invite you to tune in to our senatorial forum, and we will be asking them questions on the issues that matter just a little bit later to most Filipinos. When we return, we'll take a closer look at the background and experience of 3 other senatorial candidates. Stay with us. I'm Cherry Mercado, and you're watching CNN Philippines. Another election year is ahead of us. Sorry about my voice. May 13th is the big day next year. Filipinos will be voting in midterm elections. Our AC Nichols takes a closer look at what's at stake.
On May 13, 2019, the country will hold its midterm elections nationwide. Up for grabs are over 18,000 elective posts, consisting of 12 senators and 60 party list representatives. At the local level, voters will choose 243 members of the House of Representatives, 81 governors and same number of vice governors, and 780 members of Sangguniang Panlalawigan. There will also be 145 vacant seats each for city mayors and city vice mayors, and 1,628 for Sangguniang Panlungsod members. Meantime, 1,489 municipal mayors and same number of vice mayors will also be elected, together with 11,916 Sangguniang Bayan members. At the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, voters will have to select 1 regional governor and 1 vice-regional governor, together with 24 members of the Regional Assembly. The Commission on Elections says more than 2.5 million voters registered for next year's elections. The projected number of overseas voters is 1.9 million, while the projected total number of voters is from 60 to 61 million. For the senatorial race, 152 filed their certificates of candidacy, but on November 19, only 148 candidates were written on the poll body's tentative list of candidates. For the party list sector, 185 party list groups filed their certificates of nomination and acceptance. On February 12, 2019, the COMELEC is scheduled to post the certified list of voters in time for the campaign period, which begins on the same day and ends on May 11. The month-long overseas absentee voting starts on April 13, while local absentee voting will take place from April 29 to May 1. As soon as voting precincts close on May 13, Election Day, the counting of votes for local absentee voting begins. The canvassing of precinct results and proclamation of winners for city and municipal elective officials is slated on May 13 to 16, while canvassing of precinct results and proclamation of winners for the senatorial, congressional, party list, regional, and provincial elections follow on May 17 to 19. The last day of filing of Statement of Campaign Expenditures is on June 12, 2019. AC Nichols, CNN Philippines.
And still joining us in the studio are three political analysts, ang mga magigiting nating political analysts na kasama natin ngayong hapon. Professor Ed Dayo, Mr. Mon Casiple, and of course, Goyo Larrazabal, former commissioner of the Commission on Elections. Okay, so we move on to the next candidate. Last two candidates na tayo. Serge Osmeña. Serge Osmeña is hoping to make a Senate comeback, running as an independent candidate. However, the Campaign Finance Office of the Commission on Elections has recommended the perpetual disqualification of comebacking Senator Serge Osmeña III from any government office for allegedly twice failing to report his campaign expenses. Ito bang naka-file sa kanya sa COMELEC? How will this progress, you think? Pwede siyang, of course, he can run, no?
Yes, he can run.
With that pending.
There's still the legal process for that. He still has a number of options to take. No? If and when the Commission elections comes out with a final decision, he can elevate the decision, or he can appeal it, or he can put an MR. But at this point in time, I think it's premature to even discuss na he's not running, because at this point, he's still qualified.
So, ibig sabihin, pwede nga niyang matapos yung buong 6-year term niya nang gumugulong pa kung sakasakali.
It has happened in the past. Officials, while cases are pending, are able to serve in office.
But this is something that we should take seriously, diba? The filing of the campaign expenses is something na parang hindi masyadong siniseryoso ata ng mga kandidato natin. What do you think?
Systemic nga kasi. That's why siguro ilang eleksyon ng pinag-uusapan namin na sana ang ipopursue ng mga kandidato, lalo na sa legislatura, ay yung malawakan talagang pagbabago sa buong sistema. Kaso kasi tuwing magkakaroon ng pagkakataong ganon, dinidemonize natin yung proseso kaagad. So, hindi nakakaarangkada. You look at the political party Development Act, supposedly. You can very well ask Prof. Mon here in this regard. But it could have, done a lot of change in the process. Pero hanggat ganito yung sistema natin, reklamo lang tayo ng reklamo, pero wala talagang mangyayari. Kasi anyone can just do whatever pleases him and get away with it.
Anong mga issue kay Serge Osmeña do you think that the voters should consider, should know about?
Well, like Enrile is one of those who had been there, done that, and actually came out of it whole.
Yeah.
Unscathed.
So, if you're a voter, you should look at the track record.
Yeah.
And my own impression, of course, is that he's been a defender of the faith, meaning the status quo. He's been, in many issues, he's been a very strong advocate of maintaining the system.
Is
In
that
fact,
a good thing?
we had that problem with him in the automated election law. He was the one who actually tried to put obstacles in that particular, and we are still suffering from that because of the amendments, which basically favored a manual, which is an irony. He favored the manual handling of elections.
Nung 2016, no, he finished 14.
Yeah.
Diba? So,
People
sabi niya-
expected him to win that election. but he
Yes.
didn't.
Oo, so hindi siya nanalo. So that's why probably he felt like, ganyan naman usually yung mga si Francis Tolentino, diba? Of course, they're running again. But in the latest survey, he pasok siya 11 to 12, but still in the end, no?
Just, yeah.
Towards the
Oo.
end.
What are your thoughts?
I think, again, going back to the survey, I think it's too early at this point in time. The real surveys that matter will be starting January or towards the middle of the campaign. Former Senator Serge Osmeña, I think the problem, some say, is he was quiet for the past 2 years. As in, you didn't hear anything from him, hardly anything from him, and suddenly he comes out. So he lost a lot of time to generate publicity, and a lot of people parang missed hearing his voice. So he has to gain traction again with those voters.
Okay, so now, let's now move on to our last candidate, at least as far as this senatorial forum is concerned. Former presidential political advisor Francis Tolentino is going to try for a second time to become a senator. The former MMDA chief is running under the administration's PDP Laban. Of course, he was He was a former political advisor of President Duterte. And pero LP rin siya dati.
LP siya.
LP siya
Oh,
dati.
yeah. He was Liberal Party. He jumped to the party of the president. Some people are asking, what did he do? Again, what did he do the last 3 years as presidential advisor, political affairs. What did he do that would make a significant impact on the political system in the Philippines? Some people are questioning that aspect of his job during this administration. So I think he should make sure that they understand what he did.
Kasi may background din siya, no? He was a Tagaytay mayor, he was an MMDA chairman, and then political advisor, no? But so is he going to be judged based on his work, his past work, or now mostly being an ally of President Duterte? What do you
I think it would be because of the networking that he's doing. Yeah, that's what he was doing. That's what he did during the past 3 years. Aside from the case, he has a case against the number 12.
Senator Laila de Lima.
Yeah, because he's the
Na
number
nakasuspend
13.
ngayon, ano? Nakasuspend
I think
dahil-
kasi I'm sure they filed appropriate motions to have it suspended or dismissed. Kasi he's running na eh.
Right, correct. Sorry to interrupt you there, Professor Mon. Go ahead.
Well, as I've said, he's doing actually, he's very busy the past 3 years. His local government background actually is the reason. He's busy. If you go around the country, you would meet him at every stop because that's what he's doing. Of course, I don't know what he thinks of his job as a presidential advisor on political affairs. It's not a reform position, definitely. But it's supposed to be for somebody who deals on the political level with all that the president wants to deal with. I mean, he's the handyman there. I don't know, but that's a secretive position, actually. It's not supposed to be a publicly known activity type of a situation.
Pero yung mga ganitong sanay sa executive position, no? Yung implementer ka, tapos magiging legislator ka. I don't know, what are your thoughts about Francis Tolentino?
Well, it's going to be a good jump, basically, because you've seen the executive side. So, in theory, you would know what needs to be done, what additional legislation could possibly, introduce some needed changes in the executive branch. So, yun lang. Kaya nga, it can go either way, no? I mean, his position, as Mon mentioned, no, need not be very public. And because of that, his opportunity to be popular might not have been that forthcoming. But at the same time, now that he's running again, we can't discount the possibility of several other issues from before that will be revived. So, ganun eh. As a candidate, you should be ready for anything. And I'm sure, of course, that he knows what's coming already, considering that he threw his hat back in the ring.
Okay, thank you for those thoughts. And we are just a few minutes away from our senatorial forum. We have 8 candidates, and we look forward to hearing from them. We will be live at the University of the Philippines. This is CNN Philippines special presentation. We'll be back after a very short break. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Cherry Mercado, and this is a CNN Philippines special presentation as we count down to our Senatorial Forum happening at 5 p.m. at the University Theater at UP Diliman. In the meantime, here's a quick check of the other stories that we are following today. The political world is responding to the death of President George H.W. Bush. The patriarch of a political dynasty died Friday in the U.S. He was 94 years old. CNN's Karen Kaifa takes a closer look at how Bush is being remembered.
Remembering a towering figure in politics.
He himself said public service is a noble calling. We are here to try and live that out.
Condolences and remembrances are pouring in from across the globe honoring President George H.W. Bush. The leader of the powerhouse Bush political family passed away Friday in his Houston home, where a memorial is now growing outside.
How much they're loved, not just by Republicans, but just anybody.
World leaders and politicians are sharing heartfelt memories of the World War II combat pilot.
He was the father, or one of the fathers of the German unification, and we will never forget that.
At the G20 in Argentina, President Trump announced he's attending Bush's memorial service and praised the 41st president for his commitment to faith, family, and country.
He's a very special person. I spoke with Jeb and George today, and we had great conversations.
Granddaughter Jenna Bush Hager posting this picture on Instagram, writing, "I will miss him desperately, but so happy he and my grandmother are back together." Former President Obama also remembering Bush's life and legacy, tweeting, "America has lost a patriot and humble servant." Former President Bill Clinton writing, "Hillary and I give thanks for his great long life of service, love, and friendship." We're also hearing personal stories from those who worked in his administration.
He was a very fun-loving person, willing to drop a joke in the middle of the most serious issues and conversations.
In Houston, Texas, I'm Karen Kaifa.
In just a few minutes, we will be hosting a senatorial forum live at the University Theater at UP Diliman so we can get to know some of our senatorial bets in next year's midterm elections. Our very own chief anchor and correspondent Pia Ontiveros and senior anchor and correspondent Pinky Webb will be moderating this forum. And the participating candidates will be Gary Alejano, Bam Aquino, Ronald Bato de la Rosa, Chel Diokno, J.V. Ejercito, Juan Ponce Enrile, Serge Osmeña, and Francis Tolentino. And still with us here in the studio, we have our political analyst, Professor Ed Tayo, Professor Mon Casiple, and Commissioner Goyo Larazabal. Let's now talk about the voting preferences of the Filipinos. You said kanina, may diferensya na eh. Iba na ang mga kinukonsidera ng Filipino voters. We'll start with you, Professor Ed.
Alam mo, madali kasi, well, if you listen to the politicians, they would always say, especially if they're talking about very technical measures pending in Congress, and you ask them, why is it that they don't go out of their way to explain it to the public, and they'll just dismiss the public as, not very much, competent to understand what these are and so on and so on. Pero actually, hindi competent kasi hindi nga pinag-uusapan, hindi nakakarating sa kanila. But if you go by voting behavior, it's rather simple. No? After the EDSA revolution, sino yung mga nanalo? Lahat nung merong pangalan na nakilala nung EDSA revolution, nanalo yan. No? Pagkatapos nun, and karamihan ng mga yon, siyempre mga professionals, mga abogado, mga ekonomista, and so on and so on. That's why you can very well see the different composition of the Senate now. After that, nakita nila, hindi naman porke abogado, hindi naman porke ganito, maganda yung nangyari. So they started experimenting. Ang binoto nila, mga artista. So lahat ng mga popular, yun ang mga halos, basta maraming nanalo ng mga artista. After that, pansinin mo, hindi porke artista ka, mananalo ka na ngayon.
That's true.
No, kasi nakita na ng mga tao na hindi pala porke popular, he can make a difference. No, after that, ano yung nangyari? People started considering those who were involved in coups d'etat, no? Kaya pumasok yung mga nakilala ng mga militar before. Tapos mga negosyante, yung mga pumasok, ngayon halo-halo na. So in other words, hindi mo pwedeng i-discount yung possibility that the voters are actually looking at very good reasons why they're going to vote for whoever. the social media is a very telling development. Again, it can go either way. Kasi alam mo, kulang pa din yung mainstream media natin eh. That's why the social media has become very potent because people are looking for real alternatives in this regard. And so we're very vulnerable to fake news, no? So yun yung kailangan nating tingnan mabuti. So in other words, it will now depend how much really gets into the consciousness of the voter that will lead him to support whoever.
So we still need to hear the issues.
That's
we
right.
still need to hear the issues either from the candidates themselves or from the media.
That's right.
From responsible media entities.
Unfortunately, for many voters, it's name recall, it's popularity.
Yung name recall hindi nawawala sa voters'
meron pa rin yan,
attitude, no?
But it has happened in the past where it failed to work, no?
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Saan yun?
There has,
Remind us.
yes, there have been there have been some senators who re-election is too lost, diba? So nothing's fixed. No? There are always changes, like Professor Tayo said. But the most important thing here is how to get out and reach to the voters now. How to make sure that, especially to the newcomers or those who are just entering into politics, or how to make sure that the voters know what your policies are. It's not just they have to know that you're running, and in a short period of time, that's a big challenge.
Professor Mon.
We have a study in 2003 which puts the image of a candidate as matulungin, malapit sa tao, at may track record or promise na meron siyang makatao o makamasa na number one yun. Popularity, which was the number one in the 1998 election, was number 3 na.
Wow.
And then you have this endorsement by per group, political parties and so on as number 2. Number 4 is more or less the networking. But the important thing I think that happened between 2003 and now is that there was a challenge put for the candidates about reforms that the people really want. I think President Aquino, for example, won on the promise of fulfilling the promises of EDSA, which the judgment in 2016 was he did not. So it turned the reverse, and President Duterte won precisely as a protest.
Exactly.
So the
Right.
2019 election, these senatorial candidates will have to tackle the question of are they, or the voters believe the stories that they will tell, whether or not they will.
We just have 1 minute to go, and there's also that question of whether ito bang popularidad ni President Duterte? Kasi minsan hinahati ang mga kandidato. Are you against? Are you a vocal critic of President Duterte, or are you an ally of President Duterte?
The president might be very popular now, but I know some people will notice that the candidates he supports are not doing as good as they expected, no? I think that's the challenge now. So how do you reach out to the people and help make them win? So this is going to be a validation siguro on the presidents, on specific candidates running for the Senate in 2019.
And kailangan niya ng taga-suporta sa legislative agenda.
Actually, usually, and this I think applies today, the midterm election, there is a major factor involved in the position of the president.
Yeah.
If the president is unpopular, and I'd like to think of 2007 elections, it becomes a case of death, the endorsement of the president, I mean. But if he's popular, it would be an additional positive factor. But I agree. The real factor, the decisive one, is the perception of individual candidates by the voters.
And of course, the issues will still happen. A lot of issues will still happen closer to the May 2019 midterm elections. In the meantime, we're just a few minutes away from our senatorial forum. 8 candidates, we're going to hear from them, and we look forward to that. We will be giving you live videos of that from the University of the Philippines. This is still the CNN Philippines special presentation on our first senatorial forum. We do intend to have a series of these senatorial forum. Watch the first one. We will be back after a very short break. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Cherry Mercado, and this is still the CNN Philippines special presentation as we count down to our senatorial forum happening at 5 p.m. today. Just a few more minutes there at the University Theater at UP Diliman. So before we pass it on to UP, I'd like to ask the three of you first, what do you want to hear? What do you expect to hear from these 8 senatorial candidates? Of course, halo-halo to di ba? Merong allied with President Duterte, and there's some staunch critics as well.
Ako isa lang kasi ang daming issue, no? I'd like to hear your views on federalism and charter change.
Federalism and charter change.
Yeah. It is a real issue. Yeah. In fact, the President put it at the top of his change agenda.
Yan yung aasahan kasi natin after the May 2019 elections. Professor Ed.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, whenever a candidate talks about constitutional reform, you can now distinguish one who is really objective, who understands what the real issues are, how it impacts on the day-to-day lives of the Filipino people, to someone who's just politicized that whatever is identified with a particular person will only have something negative to say. So yun, kasi sa akin, yung issue ng kahirapan, issue ng climate change, lahat yan kasama yan sa sistema no? So kung hindi mo naintindihan yung significance ng sistema, sa akin, mahina ka.
Well, for me, aside from charter change, the economic policies, food on the table, what do they think of the economic policies of the president? Do they support it? Will we do a train 2? The next Congress, what do we do with regards to questions with infrastructure? What do we do with regards development of the Philippines in general? Things that matter to everybody. That means that food on the table. What about transportation, jeepney modernization? These are things that no matter where you are in the political society, you will be affected, di ba?
Foreign policy, Philippine-China relations, how is that in the...
Well, I'm happy. Secretary Terry Boy Locsin is there. I'm happy he's there, at least.
Not so much in the roster of priorities.
It's not really a public issue during election. It's more of a governance issue after the election.
Okay, we are just a few minutes away from the CNN Philippines special presentation. Just 4 minutes away. There are 8 senatorial aspirants, and they will share their views on the most pressing issues today. 8 senatorial aspirants as far as this special presentation is concerned. Please stay tuned to CNN Philippines. I'm Cherry Mercado.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderators for today's Senatorial Forum. CNN Philippines Chief Anchor and Correspondent Pia Ontiveros and Pinky Webb.
Hello everyone and good afternoon. Welcome to the CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. Over the next hour and a half, you will be meeting 8 senatorial candidates. We're going to ask them some questions. We're going to find out what their plans, policies, and positions are on the most important issues facing our country today. This is the first in a series of forums that CNN Philippines is hosting in the lead-up to next year's midterm elections.
May 13th is Decision Day. The Filipino votes in next year's midterm elections. And it's time to get to know your candidates. Scrutinize their background, their personal qualities, their track record, and their qualifications to decide why they should be elected to public office. Thousands of candidates, but only 12 Senate seats are up for grabs. We'll ask your future senators the hard questions. Who deserves to win? Who's qualified to serve in the 18th Congress of the Philippines? This is a CNN Philippines special presentation.
Let's meet your senatorial candidates. We will be calling them on stage in alphabetical order. Magdalo Representative and Liberal Party candidate, Gary Alejano. Senator Bam Aquino, who is seeking a second term also under the Liberal Party. Former Philippine National Police Chief and Bureau of Corrections Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa, who is running under the Partido Demokratiko Pilipino Lakas ng Bayan. Human rights lawyer Chel Diokno, another candidate of the Liberal Party. Next up, Senator J.V. Ejercito is also seeking a second term in the Senate and running under the Nationalist People's Coalition. Hoping to make a Senate comeback is Juan Ponce Enrile, who's running under the puwersa ng Masang Pilipino. And we have another former senator, Serge Osmeña, also an independent candidate. And last but not the least, presidential political advisor, Francis Tolentino. He's running under the administration's PDP Laban. Welcome, candidates. Please have a seat. We've been asked about the selection process for today's forum. We have invited as many senatorial candidates as possible. And these are the candidates, the 8 today, who have agreed. We were also asked, where are the women? Well, we did invite them also. Senators Grace Poe, Nancy Binay, Cynthia Villar. We also invited Representative Pia Cayetano and Governor Amy Marcos. Unfortunately, they are not available today. But we hope to see them in our next forum or possibly even in a debate. But today is not a debate. We are not pitting you against each other. There will be no rebuttals today. You are also not allowed to challenge or ask another candidate a question. So this will be a panel discussion, and we are here to ask you questions on issues that matter most to every Filipino. We have compiled questions from social media. We also have questions from our live audience. We'd like to explain some additional guidelines. While this is not a debate, we want to limit the amount of time that you spend answering a question. When we ask a general question, it means all of you will answer. You will be given 1 minute and 30 seconds. We will do this in alphabetical order, so we will begin with Congressman Alejano. For the second general question, we will start with Francis Tolentino and have candidates sitting to his right, or no. From here, from Congressman Gary Alejano, to answer one at a time. There will be questions addressed to specific candidates. Each one will be given 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Now and again, we will or may have a follow-up question, and we hope you can keep your answers short. Please try to answer within 30 to 60 seconds. And to be sure, we have a timing device that's in front of you to serve as a guide. Again, the time limit will allow us to cover more ground and give equal opportunity to everyone here. And much like our vice presidential debate in 2016, we'll ask you questions answerable by yes or no. So candidates, please look to your left on the table. There is a signboard. Gentlemen, one side, yes. Secretary Toledo, yes, is green.
And of course, red means?
Red is?
No.
No.
Huwag
So
so kayo
later
magpagawa
on-
ng signboard mamaya, ha? Yung the one to your left. Okay?
So mamaya, gagamitin natin yan. So, you are watching CNN Philippines special presentation. We are live on free-to-air, Channel 9, and on cable, as well as live streaming on cnnphilippines.com and Facebook. Join our conversation online on our Facebook Live or on Twitter using the hashtag #TheFilipinoVotes.
We'd like to thank the University of the Philippines for hosting our Senatorial Forum. Maraming salamat po, UP. Our first question is a general question. Candidates, this will serve as your opening statement. The question is, what have you done to serve the Filipino people? Let's start with Congressman Alejano.
Well, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Ako po ay dating sundalo na nakipagyera sa ating kalaban sa Estado. Tayo po ay muntik nang namatay. Nagbabago lamang ang ating larangan ng digmaan noon kalaban sa Estado dahil sa ating desire na magkaroon ng pagbabago. Tayo po ay nagprotesta sa gobyerno. And dahil dyan, ay nagnais po tayong makaimpluwensya ng pulisiya sa ating gobyerno, kaya nga sumali tayo sa politika. But it went through a great debate dahil alam ho natin parang kakainin ho tayo ng sistema sa perception ng mga Pilipino ay marumito. Pero dahil naniniwala tayo sa pinaglalaban, kami po ay sumali. At naniniwala ho kami, consistent ang Magdalo mula noon hanggang ngayon sa pagtayo laban sa korupsyon. At makikita rin yan na itong ang politika ay isang avenue for us to advocate of what we're fighting for. At makikita yan sa aming performance. We have been consistent, top performers sa Kongreso, and wala ho tayong bahid ng korupsyon. Kaya nga ang taong bayan makakaasa na ibibigay namin ang tamang serbisyo dahil wala ho kaming pinagkakautangan ni isang tao, kundi ang taong bayan, kaya marapat lamang na ibalik namin sa kanila ang tamang serbisyo.
Senator Bam Aquino.
Unang-una, magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Good evening, everyone. Alam niyo po, ako po ang pangarap ko po isang bayang umuunlad na wala pong naiiwan. Totoo po, magandang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas for the past 6 or 7 years, pero totoo rin naman po, hindi umaabot ang yaman na to sa mga mahihirap nating kababayan. Ang kailangan po nila, mga reforma, mga panukala na magbibigay po ng fighting chance sa kanila. Tulong po sa mga maliliit na negosyante, yung Go Negosyo Act na napasa po natin. Tulong po na magbigay ng libreng kolehiyo sa ating mga kabataan. Ngayon po, kahit kapos makapagtatapos na. Ito po yung hinahanap ng ating taong bayan. Tulong, ayuda, suporta para po sa kanilang mga pamilya. At ito rin po yung mga tipo ng batas na gusto po nating ituloy at gusto po nating siguraduhin na magkakaroon po ang ating mga kababayan dito po sa ating minamahal na bansa.
General Bato de la Rosa.
Nung ako po ay pulis, ako ay retiradong pulis na ngayon. Kung ako ay pulis po ay 2 beses po ako inawardan ng Best Police Officer of the Year sa buong bansa, 2 beses for police operations. Nung ako ay nag-CPNP, nung ako ay nag-lead sa war on drugs, record po yan. We were able to have 1.3 million drug users and drug pushers surrendered to the folds of the law, and karamihan sa kanila ay nagbagong buhay. At meron din tayong nahuli na 130,000 plus na mga drug offenders, at ito lahat ay nakakulong. Hindi po patay, ha? Nakakulong sila lahat. And during my time, we were able to decrease the crime volume by 49%. Record po yan. Never in the history of the Philippines na bumagsak ang crime volume by 49%. Kaya, yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
Attorney Chel Diokno.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Matagal na rin po akong tumutulong sa mga nangailangan at mga mahihirap sa ating bayan. Bilang isang human rights lawyer, ako po ay naging boses ng mga guro, mga estudyante, mga manggagawa, mga mangingisda, at iba pang sektor ng ating lipunan. Yung ba ang tinatawag nilang mga nasa laylayan ng ating lipunan. Bilang isang abogado, nakikita ko mismo yung mga problema po ng ating mga kapatid, mga nangangailangan. At yung isang pinakamalaking problema nila ay hindi patas ang hustisya sa atin. Alam naman natin lahat, pag may sala, dapat may parusa. Alam naman natin lahat na ang mahihirap ay dapat may boses sa ating pamahalaan. Pero parang ay hindi naman nangyayari yon. Kaya yung ipinaglalaban ko sa loob ng husgado, ay kailangan po siguro ay dalhin ko sa ibang arena. At kaya po ako naririto ngayong gabi. Good evening.
Thank you, Attorney. All right, Senator J.V. Ejercito.
Nagsimula po ako maglingkod sa taong bayan noong 2001 na ako po ay nahalal bilang mayor ng San Juan. At para sa akin, ang pinakabatayan upang ikaw ay tawagin na matagumpay sa iyong paglilingkod ay kung maiangat mo ang antas ng buhay at mapaganda mo ang kalidad ng buhay ng iyong nasasakupan. Taong 2001, kami po ay nasa oposisyon. Ang sabi ko sarili ko, walang tutulong sa amin at wala kaming aasahan. Ngunit sa aming reforma na isinagawa sa San Juan, ay unti-unti namin ay ayos at nagkaroon ng kumpiyansa ang mga negosyante. At dahan-dahan lumaki rin ang aming budget, gumanda ang aming serbisyo. Nung nagkaroon ng tiwala ang ating mga kababayan, ang mga negosyante, nagbigay ng trabaho at hanap buhay. At ito po ang pinagmamalaki ko na bilang lingkod publiko na niangat natin ang taas ng buhay na ating mga kababayan. San Juan has the lowest poverty incidence during my watch. And yan rin po ang nagsilbing dahan na aking pinagpatuloy nang ako po ay nahalal bilang senador ng ating bansa. Tayo po ay nagtulak ng mga advokasya at ng mga panukala na siyang magpapaganda at magpapaangat ng antas ng buhay ng ating mga kababayan. Ang Universal Healthcare Program po at ang creation ng Department of Human Settlements ay ilalaman sa mga panukala na malapit na pong maisabatas na talagang masasabi po natin na tinapod natin ang pangarap na gusto natin gumanda ang buhay ng ating mga kababayan.
Thank you, sir. Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, you're next, sir.
Ako po naman ay pagsimula nung bata ako, 17 years old, luwamon po ako sa mga Hapon na sumalakay sa ating bansa, naging manananggol, nagtrabaho sa gobyerno bilang sa Department of Finance, Department of Justice, Department of National Defense, naging senador ng 4 na beses na at ngayon po ay bumabalik para tumulong sa bayan.
Thank you, sir. Let's go next to Senator Sergio Osmeña.
Ako po ay si Sergio Osmeña. Tumatakbo po ako bilang senador sa 2019. Now, sa ginawa ko sa Senado, marami na ho. 166 laws na pinasa ko sa Senado. At 3 term nakaabot ko sa Senado, 18 years. So, mahirap mag-usap kasi hindi ko naman alam kung anong gusto ninyo marinig. Pero for example, ang pinasa ko doon, yung Magna Carta for Public Social Workers, yung Solo Parents Act, at saka yung para sa ecology, para sa mamamayan, para yung Philippine Clean Air Act, Philippine tawag dito, Clean Water Act, at saka yung isa sa pinaka-importante na bill, yung EPIRA, yung Liberalization of Retail Trade, yung mga iba pa, no? So, marami na ho ako pinasa doon. Pero sa ngayon ho, marami pa tayong problema ngayon tungkol sa inflation. At ako ay ekonomista. So ako ay magdadala po ng magandang bagay doon po sa debate sa economy. At kung sakali mahalal mo na ako, malaking tulong ko sa economic problems na ating bansa.
Maraming salamat, Senator Sergio Osmeña. And Secretary Francis Tolentino, sir.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Kagaya po lahat na nagsalita rito, kabilang po ako sa nagtataguyod ng isang mataas na antas sa pamumuhay ng ating mga kababayan. Ako po ay naglingkod bilang mayor ng Tagaytay City. Kabilang po ako sa nagpaunlad ng Tagaytay na pinapasyalan nyo ngayon. Sa Tagaytay po, ako po ay nagtayo ng City College of Tagaytay kung saan nagkaroon ng libreng edukasyon. Ako po ay nagtayo ng ospital ng Tagaytay, libreng ospitalisasyon at pati yung pabahay sa Tagaytay. Bilang MMDA chairman, ang hindi ko po makakalimutan na gawa rito ay yung pagbalangkas ng isang earthquake contingency plan. Kung sakaling lilindol po sa Metro Manila, yun pa rin po ang Biblia ang gagamitin ninyo, gagamitin natin para po tayo ay makabangon. Nakaharap ko na po ang kamatayan sa napakaraming okasyon sa mga kalamidad, Ompong, Yolanda, Bohol earthquake, at yung katatapos na Mayon volcano eruption. I've seen all of this bilang point person, bilang nauna. Pero para sa akin, ang mahalaga po yung mabilis at dagli ang pagbangon ng mga kababayan natin na lalo naghihirap pag merong isang kalamidad na nagaganap. Ako po si Francis Tolentino. Ang sinusulong ko pong bagong konsepto ngayon bilang isang environmental lawyer ay yung konsepto ng green justice. Pag meron pong isang kalamidad na may bahagi po ang tao, dapat po may managot. Dapat po may magbayad at dapat po matulungan yung mga naapi. Kagaya po ng mga naririto, bilang mayor ng Tagaytay, sinusulong ko rin po ang pag-aamyanda ng local government code. We have to empower our local government units.
All right, Secretary Francis Tolentino, thank you. To all the gentlemen, thank you. We now go to our specific question. This question goes to the following candidates only. Senator Bam Aquino, Senator J.V. Ejercito, and former Senator Serge Osmeña. The question is, many Filipinos are worried about the high prices of basic goods and commodities. Any measure to curb inflation will also limit the growth of the economy. What specific measures should be taken to address inflation? Senator Bam Aquino, you go first.
Pinky, maraming salamat. As early as May, nag-file na po tayo ng bawas presyo sa petrolyo bill na sinisikap na i-address yung mga naging problema po ng train law. In the end, in the Senate sa train law, 4 lang po kaming bumoto ng no doon po sa panukalang yon na nagtaas ng buwis pagdating po sa ating petroleum products. At alam naman ho natin, kapag tumataas po ang gasolina at diesel, tumataas rin po ang presyo ng bilihin sa merkado. Kaya mahalaga talaga, hindi lang po sa Enero, kung hindi nitong nakaraang 2018, dapat ho talaga tinanggal na yung dagdag buwis sa diesel, gasolina at kerosina. Alam niyo po, nung umiikot ako, Pinky, I go around sa mga konsultahang bayan. Ang laging binabanggit ng mga nanay at tatay sa akin, Senator Bam, bakit biglaang pagtaas yung presyo ng bilihin ngayon? Yung sardinas po na noon 13 pesos, ngayon 18 pesos na. Iba pa yung problema sa presyo ng bigas. That's a whole other problem on itself. So, ang isa pong pwede natin gawin para ma-address po yung inflation kaagad, i-correct ho natin yung train law. Tanggalin ho natin yung buwis dito po sa diesel at gasolina. Hindi lang po yung parating sa Enero 2019, pati rin po yung parating sa Enero 2020, pati na rin po yung dinagdag ngayong 2018. Ito po yung mga nagpapataas sa presyo ng bilihin sa merkado at nararapat lang po na umaksyon ang Senado at Kongreso na bawiin na po ito kaagad, no? Lately, we heard nag-uurong sulong yung Department of Finance pagdating sa suspension this January, no, for the train increase pagdating po sa diesel, gasolina at kerosina. Palagay ko po, it's time for the Senate and the Congress to take the lead, pass the bawas presyo sa petrolyo bill or pass the joint resolution we already filed in the previous month. Ipasa na po yan, bawiin na po itong buwis na nasa train law upang makorek po natin yung batas, no? Alam naman ho natin na yung train, pag nakita ho niyan, pag inaral niyo po yan, yung isang provision po dyan na talagang nakakalala sa ating mga kababayan, yun po itong pagdadagdag ng buwis sa petrolyo. So we hope to correct that. We hope that our fellow senators and congressmen can really show some leadership and really push this law for the benefit of our people. Yung mga jeepney drivers ho, nakausap po namin sa mga konsultahan, sabi ho nila, Senator, kahit 2 piso lang yan, 4 na piso, ang ibig pong sabihin yan kung kakain po kami ng almusal o hindi. So marami ho talagang apektado dito. I'm hoping we can all come together and really push this reform for our people. Salamat po.
So, perfect. Senator J.V. Ejercito, good to answer, Senator Bam Aquino.
With regards to train, ibang train po ang aking gusto i-pursue. Being an advocate of transport modernization, infrastructure development, I feel that this is the weakness of our economy. And we have witnessed how our economy grew, how it improved, but we have never reached its full potential because of this weakness. That's why one of the reasons why I support the Build program or the infrastructure development, because I know that this will spread out the development. There are so many benefits that can be derived once we prioritize infrastructure development. One is it will spread out the development. We will be creating new growth development areas in different different provinces. That will mean jobs and opportunities. And likewise, the immediate effect, it will mitigate and soften the impact of inflation, because immediately we will be able to hire a lot of workers, thousands of workers, to undertake the massive infrastructure development and construction. And not to mention the multiplier effect brought about by having big ticket items being constructed at the same time. So we will be hitting two birds with one stone. If we prioritize infrastructure development, we will be able to address the weakness of our economy, and probably we will have a good chance of reaching the full economic potential once we are able to complete all of these necessary infrastructure development projects. So for jobs and opportunities, I would go for infrastructure development, transport modernization. This because this will pave the way to genuine inclusive growth in the future. Thank you.
We'd like to hear from Senator Sergio Osmeña also. Sir.
Opo, our problem today is inflation, and about 3 to 4% of that inflation, of our 6.7% inflation, comes from the price of rice and the price of vegetables, fish, meat, chicken, etc. So what I'm going to do right after the elections, if we win, is to introduce a bill that first will bring down the tariffication of rice from 35% to 20%. Why? Because at 35%, people will be inclined to smuggle rice. And that's a big gap. So we'll bring it down to 20%, so there'll be less incentive to smuggle rice. Now, when you do that, you'll be putting money into 104 million Filipinos' pocket, not into the pocket of the farmers. Now, the farmers are going to suffer. But because of that, we're going to give the farmers all the help that we can give. So we're going to give them free mechanization, we're going to give them free certified seeds, we're going to give them credit and other things. Now, to do that, we have to lower their cost of production, because their cost of production now is too high. They're selling rice at about 15, 17, 20 pesos, when it should be about 10 pesos to 12 pesos. So we have to bring that down. Now, there are other farmers are not going to be competitive. These are the farmers who are in the marginal rice areas. So what we'll do with them is we'll teach them how to go to other crops. We'll teach them to go to cacao, we'll get to bongo, cassava, etc. And then with that, we will have to bring in the extra rice that we need from abroad. Now, with this tariffication, it's good. The tariffication is good because you can bring in all the rice you want as long as you pay the 35% tariff. But still, I think it's too high because ang papatak dyan, the price of rice will go to about 37 from 40 or 44, which is not good enough. Because if you sell rice at 22 pesos in Thailand, why are we selling rice here at 40 pesos or 37 pesos? So we have to bring it down some more. But to bring it down some more, you have to help the farmers at the same time. So that is my number one pet project when I get to the Senate.
Let's move on to the war on drugs. This question will be answered by General Bato de la Rosa, Congressman Alejano, and human rights lawyer Chel Diokno. In his third State of the Nation address, President Duterte said he would continue his controversial war against illegal drugs. In July, the Philippine National Police said close to 150,000 people have been arrested and more than 4,300 were killed in anti-drug operations. How would you solve the country's drug problems? General Bato, you first.
Well, ang una-una, gusto kong i-reimpose yung death penalty doon sa mga drug traffickers. Dahil nga, per my experience as Director General of the Bureau of Corrections, kausap ko yung mga Chinese, Taiwanese, Hong Kong nationals, mga convicted drug lords sa loob ng Bilibid. And I asked them, why do you insist on trafficking drugs to the Philippines? Ang sagot nila palagi is, your laws here in the Philippines are too easy. You don't have death penalty for drug offenses. At ang tsansa pa, kahit na ang baba ng ating conviction rate sa drug cases, kung sila'y nakonbikto at sila'y nakulong, habang nagsiserve sila ng sentence, instead na makorek sila doon sa loob, lumalaki pa yung kanilang drug empire sa labas kung mahina ang management ng Bureau of Corrections. Kaya sabi ko, let's try. I-reimpose natin itong death penalty. Tingnan natin, barilin natin sa Luneta itong 1, 2, 3, 4 na mga drug lord. Tingnan natin kung maghahakot pa sila ng drugs dito sa Pilipinas. Dahil tayo binabaha ng shabu galing sa ibang bansa, dahil nga very easy yung ating batas. Wala tayong death penalty. Try lang natin na gano'n. Tingnan natin kung magdadala pa sila dito ng shabu. Dahil sa ngayon, I am proud to say, wala na tayong makitang malalaking shabu laboratory dito sa ating bansa dahil nga lahat yon ay nasira natin right at the start of the Duterte administration when we launched the war on drugs. Ang ginagawa nila ngayon, nag-i-import na sila ng shabu coming from other countries. At ang masakla pa, dumadaan pa sa ating Bureau of Customs. Kaya that shows how complicated, how deep, how wide, and gaano kalaki talaga ang problema natin sa illegal na droga. So dapat nga, pagpapatayin talaga itong mga konbiktado na ito. Well, ito, nandoon ako sa loob ng Bilibid. Nakita ko kung gaano sila nabubuhay doon. Lumalaki pa yung kanilang ginagawa. Dapat talaga matapos na. Tapusin na ito dahil kawawa ang kabataang Pilipino. Nasisira, thousands of Filipino people nasisira dahil sa drugs na ito.
Thank you, sir. Congressman Alejano, your turn, please.
Ako ay pabor na talagang limitahan o talagang matapos ang illegal na droga sa Pilipinas. Pero hindi ko ako pabor sa kasalukuyang pamamaraan kung paano in-implement ang war on drugs. Alam nyo kasi kung nilulutas natin ang isang gulo at gulo din ang ating sagot, katulad ng patayan, libo-libong patayan, ang resulta nito, ang kakalabasan ay gulo din. Dapat ang ating solusyon dito ay kaayusan. Bilang dating sundalo, naalala ko noon, pag pumunta ka sa isang lugar, ang objective mo ay magdala ng kapayapaan at kaayusan. Alam nyo, sa pulisiya ngayon, na kung saan marinig natin sa administrasyon na patayin. Yun nga ang narinig natin. Every almost occasion sa Pilipinas ay patayin. Alam nyo, this is prone to abuse. At nakikita na natin napakaraming ng ehemplo dyan na naabuso ito ng ating otoridad. Ngayon po, ang issue dito ay about security ng kada Pilipino. If in the process of implementing the war on drugs, it destroys democratic institutions, it destroys democratic processes, in the long run, lahat tayo mabibiktima kahit hindi ka involved sa droga. In the long run, lahat tayo walang safe kung sira ang ating justice system. Ngayon, tingnan natin. For almost 3 years now sa war on drugs, libo-libo na po ang napatay. Anong resulta? Patuloy ang pagbaha ng droga sa Pilipinas. In fact, nagmumura pa ang droga. Hindi ba dapat nauubos na ito? Mga mahihirap, nakatsinelas, ang pinapatay, ang drug lords, hindi natin mahanap. Nasaan sila? Alam niyo, alalahanin niyo rin, ang masaklap dito, ang bulto ng droga ay nagagaling sa China. Alam mo, ang saklap, inaagaw na nga ang teritoryo natin, nilalason pa ang ating mga kabataan. Kaya ang kasagutan natin dito, una, ang kahirapan. Sagutin natin yan dahil yan ang nagresulta ng criminality. Ang pangalawa,
aayusin ho natin dapat ang criminal justice system sa Pilipinas.
Maraming salamat kay Congressman Alejano. And next, Attorney Cheldio. No, you're next, sir.
Ang problema sa war on drugs, mas malala pa yung gamot sa sakit. Diba? Wala naman shortcut ang hustisya. Wala naman shortcut sa paglalaban natin sa krimen at korupsyon. Ano ba talaga ang problema? Bakit laganap yung krimen at korupsyon na yan? Dahil baluktot at mahina ang ating sistema ng hustisya. Kung gusto natin ng isang tama at pangmatagalan na solusyon sa issue ng krimen, droga, korupsyon, walang iba kung hindi ayusin natin yung baluktot na sistema ng hustisya. Bakit ko sinasabing baluktot ang sistema natin ng hustisya? Unang-una, napakabagal ng paglilitis ng kaso sa atin. Usad pagong ang kaso sa atin. Pangalawa, kung ikaw ay mayaman, kaya mo magbayad ng magagaling na abogado de kampanilya, ay baka bukas na bukas ay makakalaya na kayo. Pero kung nasampahan ng kaso ay isang mahirap, dehadong-dehado siya. Bakit napakabagal ng paglilitis ng kaso sa atin? Kulang na kulang tayo ng wes, kulang na kulang tayo ng prosecutor. Walang ibang dahilan kundi yan. So kung gusto natin maayos ang ating sistema ng hustisya, kailangan punuin natin ng magagaling at matitino na abogado ang ating hudikatura at pati ang ating prosecution service. Pero hindi lang yon. Alam nyo, sobra ang politika sa pagpipili ng ating mga wes at ating mga prosecutor. Matagal na po akong abogado. Noong 2001, ako ay General Counsel ng Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. Noong panahon na yon, may lumalapit na sa akin, ang abogado galing probinsya. Sabi nila, tulungan mo naman ako. Sabi ko, bakit? Kailangan ko ng backer. Ba't mo kailangan ng backer? Kasi gusto ko magpa-appoint sa judiciary. Hanggang ngayon po, ganun pa rin. Kailangan mawala ang politika sa pagpipili ng ating mga wes at ating mga prosecutor para matino at maganda ang ating katarungan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Chel Diokno. Now, it's time for a yes or no question. Again, you need to pick up the signboard on your left. That's it. Candidates, the question is coming from our audience on social media. Do you support reimposing the death penalty for drug-related crimes? Yes or no?
Tatlo lang ang yes. Ay, nasira po.
General Bato.
General Bato, ano po talaga ang sagot? Yes. Okay, tatlo lang ang yes. Of course, si General Bato. Nasabi niyo na po yan kanina. Senator JPE and Francis Tolentino. Everyone else, no. When we return, we'll be asking questions on political dynasties and the recent visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping. Join the conversation online on our Facebook Live or on Twitter using the hashtag #TheFilipinoVotes. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation, the Filipino Votes Senatorial Forum. Of senatorial forums that we will be hosting in the lead-up to midterm elections on May 13.
We are live on free-to-air on Channel 9 and on cable, as well as live streaming on cnnphilippines.com and our Facebook page.
We have another question, answerable by a yes or no. Please, candidates, your signboards. General Bato, okay
Please
na po yung
be careful,
signboard nyo.
sir.
Feel na feel kasi yung sagot. The question is, the Constitution states that the public should be informed in case of serious illness of the President of the Philippines. Should the President authorize the issuance of medical bulletins about his health? Yes or no?
Everybody, General Bato, kanino po kayo tumitingin?
Kay Secretary Tolentino.
Yes na yes na yes. Ang daming yes, lahat po. Yes.
Yeah, everyone said yes. Siguro, gusto ko lang tanungin natin si General Bato, ba't siya nakatingin kay Secretary Francis?
Sir, pakisagot in 5 seconds.
Titingnan ko mga kakampi ko kung anong sagot nila. Kampi ko si Francis Tolentino at si JB Ercito. Mga kakampi ko yan eh.
Okay, sige.
In unison.
Para pare-pareho sila.
United we stand.
Naman. Divided.
Divided we fall.
Okay, next question, please.
Okay, our next question is about political dynasties, and we'd like to ask Senator Juan Ponce Enrile. This is a specific question. Senator Juan Ponce Enrile and, of course, Presidential Advisor Francis Tolentino. Critics say political dynasties weaken democracy. Those who support this practice say people have the right to vote.
You know, this problem of political dynasty should be addressed to the electorate. We are a democracy. If brothers and sisters or parents and children are capable to serve the people, why deny their service to those people? Let the electorate determine who should be their leaders and who should not be. We cannot legislate that. We cannot even put it in the Constitution. That's my position.
Even if, Senator, there is that provision?
Beg your pardon?
Even if there is that provision? A provision, sir, in the Constitution for that.
The provision in the Constitution is that cannot be implemented because it's impractical.
It is because it is
You know, if you
impractical.
are a democracy, it is the function of the people to select the people that will govern them or lead them. And how can you tell the people that they do not want to vote for this family or that family? Let them decide who should lead them in their respective localities or provinces or in the nation for that matter.
All right, sir. Let's ask former Presidential Advisor Francis Tolentino, sir.
Primordial in the Constitution is the precept that sovereignty resides in the people. As what Senator Enrile said, let the people decide. Within the next few days, I was watching CNN inside the holding room. Within the next few days, you will hear the memorial of former U.S. President George Walker Bush. That's also considered as a political dynasty in the United States. The family that restored the prestige of the military forces of the United States was a product of Bush I and Bush II. So I think the people will have to decide kung payag ba kayo na ito yung magme-mayor nyo, payag ba kayo, ito yung vice mayor nyo, gobernador ninyo, let the people decide. Marami pong political dynasty sa Pilipinas na maganda naman po ang ginagawa.
Alright, our next question. Nabanggit na po kanina ang China at West Philippine Sea. This question is related to the recent state visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping. This question is for Congressman Alejano and former Senators Osmeña and Enrile. Should the Philippines partner with China and conduct joint oil and gas exploration in the West Philippine Sea? Congressman Alejano.
Well, I don't agree that we should have a joint exploration with China. Let us all remember that whatever relationship we have with China right now, whether political or economic, lahat ito ay may connection sa West Philippine Sea because they're using this strategy on pushing us to the edge in order for us to agree with what they want. So pag tayo ay sinasabing hindi natin kayang i-defend ang ating sarili, mahina tayo, and therefore we should agree with friendly relation, tourism, investment, pautang. Pag pumasok ko tayo dito, this is a trap. Pag napatibong na tayo dyan, gaya na nangyari sa ibang bansa, nalubog sila sa utang, pagdating ng panahon, they cannot assert their sovereignty. Example po, sa Sri Lanka, ang kanilang mga proyekto na malalaki na sana magbibigay ng malaking economic development sa Sri Lanka, pagdating ng panahon ay hindi bumagsak sa kamay nila, kundi sa kamay ng Chinese. Dahil nabaon sila sa utang. Ang isang example ay sa bansang Tajikistan. Nagkaroon sila ng conflict sa border, sabi ng China, huwag na tayong mag-away, tutulungan ka namin. But at the end of the day, 80% ng external debt niya ay galing sa China at nagkaroon na ng negotiation dahil ang relationship na ginagawa ng China ay bilateral and confidential. That means walang nakikialam na iba and by case-to-case basis pag hindi ka makabayad. So at the end of the day, binayad ng Tajikistan ay 1,154 square kilometers of its territory, disputed territory. So it will happen also to the Philippines na tayo papasukin muna, na kaibigan tayo, pautangin tayo, pagdating ng araw di natin kayang bayaran ng ating utang, pwedeng West Philippine Sea ang pangbayad sa ating bansa. Kaya nga, marami pang sources na pwede tayong pagkautangan. Dahil maliwanag na may conflict of interest ang relationship natin sa China. I am not saying we don't talk to China. By all means, we should talk to China. But let us all remember that this is part of the bigger strategic objective of China to pull the Philippines within its influence and for China to become the global dominant power. Hindi po isolated na Pilipinas. They will not change the strategy for the sake of the Philippines. Kaya nga, meron silang influence on our policies, economy, and culture. So, I don't agree na papasok po tayo dyan dahil yan ay maliwanag na patibong.
Okay, next, Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, you're next, sir.
What's the difference between allowing Shell to enter into a contract for the exploration of oil and natural gas in West Philippine Sea against China doing it for us? It all depends upon the terms and conditions of the agreement that we can work out with China. Second, China is a reality for us. We cannot ignore it. Our geography tells us that we cannot transfer our land somewhere else so that we can ignore the presence of China in our region. So we have only two options on this matter. Either we use diplomacy, talk to China, or we use force. What force do we have to deal with China? We do not have. The only option available to us is to talk to China, since they are willing to talk to us, and then we talk about the terms and conditions of the exploration of natural gas and oil in the West Philippine Sea for the benefit of the Filipino people, instead of using emotion or braggadocio or whatever, or politics in order to thwart a possible beneficial good that will come to the Filipino people through an exploration of natural wealth in the South China Sea. That's my position.
Thank you, sir. Senator Serge Osmeña.
I agree that we should go into a co-exploration agreement with China, but the split there should be 60-40 in our favor because we own the land. So if it is 60-40 in our favor, let's do it. We'll go into a co-exploration with China. Now, there's another thing that I'm bothered about. China has a seismic ship. We do not have a seismic ship. So if that seismic ship is Chinese and the letters are all Chinese, hindi nila sasabihin sa atin kung ano nangyayari. So we have to use a seismic ship from a third country, like England, Australia, or the United States, so that they will be able to tell us what they found. But if China agrees to 60-40, by all means, let's do it. No problem.
All right, thank you, Senator. All right, our next question is this. We are seeing a spike in the entry of Chinese workers in the country. The Labor Department says they issued alien employment permits to some 50,000 workers a year from 2015 to 2017. In the first 3 months of 2018, more than 21,320 alien employment permits were issued. This question is for Attorney Chel Diokno and Senator Bam Aquino. How do we regulate the entry of these Chinese workers so qualified Filipinos are not denied these new jobs? Attorney Diokno, let's start with you.
Ginagamit po nila yung mga butas sa atin batas para makapasok yung mga dayuhan na trabahador sa atin. It's quite easy, I believe, to fill up those loopholes in the law. You see, they have taken advantage of the visas that are given to tourists and made that as their gateway into our country. Sa akin lang ay it's very clear, nasa ating saligang batas yan, nasa ating labor code, ang dapat mauna sa pagbibigay ng trabaho ay mga kapatid natin, mga kapwa Pilipino. Kung ano man ang kailangan para maayos natin yung mga butas na yan at nagsagawa naman ng ating Senado ng isang investigasyon, mukhang alam na natin kung ano yung problema, palagay ko ay madali nang ayusin yan basta't meron tayong political will at wag na naman natin buksan ang pinto sa iba at isesara natin ang pinto sa ating mga kapwa Pilipino.
Senator Bam Aquino?
Dadagdagan ko yung sinabi ni Dean Shell, no? Apart from creating a law to clarify the loopholes, yung problema ho kasi natin sa China, hindi ho talaga malinaw yung polisiya ng ating bansa pagdating po sa China. Hindi ho malinaw yung polisiya natin pagdating sa teritoryo, hindi ho malinaw pagdating sa mga mangingisda natin, hindi ho po malinaw sa mga workers. Hindi ho transparent yung mga proseso. Nangyayari po yung mga deals, di naman ho alam ng taong bayan kung ano ba talaga yung mga deals na ito. Ano ba sa mga build yung natutuloy na? Ang hirap pong alamin, no? Magkano ba yung interest rate ng bawat proyektong yan? Ilang workers na ba talaga yun nandito? Lahat po yan hindi po transparent, hindi ho malinaw sa atin. Now, pag tayo po nakakapanood ng mangingisdang Pilipino, kinukuhanan ng isda ng mga Chinese officers, masakit ho talaga sa puso natin. Kapag yung media natin tinataboy ng mga Chinese naval vessels, masakit ho talaga yan. Siguro naman ho, hindi naman masamang ipangarap na pag dito po tayo sa ating bansa, ang Pilipino po yung nauuna, hindi po yung ibang mga dayuhan ho natin sa ating bansa, no? So ang hinihiling ho natin dito, pagiging malinaw at transparent sa pakikitungo po natin sa China. Wala ho dapat secret deals. Dapat malinaw po yan. Pagdating sa teritoryo, pagdating sa ekonomiya, pagdating po sa ating mga nagtatrabaho, iyan po, kasama ho yan sa mga pangako. Ano po ba yung pangako? Gaganda ekonomiya natin. Gumanda ho ba ito since we pivoted to China? Hindi naman. Dadami yung trabaho. Dumami ba yung trabaho ng mga Pilipino dahil dito? Hindi rin naman. So these are basic questions na kailangan ho nating tanungin. At sana nga po, sabi nga ni Dean Shell, mag-investigate. Sana po yung Senado yung pwedeng manguna sa investigasyon na ito. Magsilbi po kaming totoong representante ng taong bayan, tanungin natin, ang mga deals na ito ay pabor ba sa ating bansa? O dihado ba mismo ang mga Pilipino sa sarili nating bayan? Yan po yung mga tanong na kailangan ho nating tanungin pagdating po sa China. At bilang panghuli, marami ho talaga nag-react during the state visit of President Xi Jinping. Yun po, yung reaction na yun, galing po yan sa isang lugar na hindi na ho natin alam kung itong sarili ho nating bayan, liyamado pa ba sa dealings natin sa China. Siguro naman po, maaasahan natin yung mga leader natin na ipaglaban naman po yung sarili nating bayan.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, next, get your signboards ready. We have another yes or no question. The question is, General Bato, are you ready? Should medical marijuana be legalized? Yes or no?
Interesting. Ay, General Bato. Sure na po kayo. Okay.
Senator Serge, Senator Juan Ponce.
Tatlong yes.
Oo.
Shell Diokno, JV Ejercito, JPE, yes. And Serge Osmeña. No po. Kay Francis Tolentino, Bato, Bam, and Gary.
Maybe we can ask them later why. You're watching a CNN Philippines special presentation. Join our conversation online on our Facebook Live or, of course, on Twitter using the hashtag #TheFilipinoVotes. And ahead on the program, we'll ask questions on corruption and divorce. Hello, everyone. I'm Pinky Webb.
And I'm Pia Ontiveros. Today, we're speaking to 8 senatorial candidates, 2 of them re-electionists, Senators Bam Aquino and JV Ejercito. We have a Congressman, Gary Alejano. 2 candidates have served in the Senate in the past, Juan Ponce Enrile and Serge Osmeña.
Joining us also today is a human rights lawyer, Chel Diokno, and we have a number of candidates who, until recently, were serving in government. Former PNP Chief and Bureau of Corrections Chief General Bato de la Rosa, and former Presidential Advisor Francis Tolentino. As we approach another election year, it is important that we understand their policies and plans, as well as their background and, of course, their experience. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation.
We have another yes or no question. Candidates, please prepare your signboards to your left. This time, the question is about divorce. The Philippines is one of 2 countries where divorce is considered illegal. In March, the House of Representatives passed on 3rd and final reading a divorce bill. The Senate has yet to act on the measure. Are you in favor of divorce if the marriage is irreconcilable or abusive? Yes or no? No, no, no. 4 no's, Gary Alejano, Bam Aquino, Bato de la Rosa, Francis Tolentino, all no. Yes, Serge Osmeña, JPE, JV Ejercito, and Chel Diokno.
Thank you.
Ang sarap siguro tanungin, no? Pero
Bakit?
walang explanation eh.
Sana may time.
Extend
Siguro
tayo.
during the break, pwede natin tanongin
during the
why.
break. Okay.
Pili tayo.
All right.
Okay. The next is a specific question for a number of candidates. This is about corruption. And we'd like to ask former presidential advisor, Francis Tolentino, Senator Ejercito, and General Bato. A recent presidential Anti-Crime Commission report says the DPWH and the Customs Bureau are the 2 most corrupt agencies. And because of that, the President ordered several military officials to stand guard at the Customs Bureau. Also, several cabinet members have been transferred to other positions. The question is, has the President done enough to combat corruption? Let's start with Secretary Francis Tolentino.
The President has been doing a lot, but the President cannot do this alone. The President will need the cooperation of the people, employees from the Bureau of Customs, stakeholders, and those having transactions with the DPWH and other agencies. So it's not an overnight event wherein a single executive decision would produce results. So this is one of the reasons why I propose the strengthening of Republic Act 1319, or the Anti-Graft and Corruption Act. Death penalty can be included in several aspects of 1319. Plus, I join the clamor for constitutional change to make corruption as a state policy. It's not there. You will never find that there. So I think the President has been doing his best. The surveys will do, but it has not ended. I agree. To some, street-level corruption is still there. Mid-agencies, bureaucratic levels, it's still there. In some LGUs, it's still there. So it's not the cooperation of everyone should be given.
Thank you, sir. Senator JV Ejercito, please.
I think aside from peace and order, battling corruption is one of the thrusts of the President. And he has shown that when it comes to corruption, wala nang pagkibot, no? Talagang with an allegation, and if there's enough proof, he fires government officials left and right. But much has to be done because, as we know, the corruption has been as part of the government culture for several decades. We need a reform. We need a drastic reform. And probably more importantly, government has to show that it is indeed serious in addressing the problem of corruption. Unang-una, bihira pong may nakukulong dito, no? Yung mga nakakasuhan, may pera po, lalamig lang, makakalimutan ng kaso. Para sa akin po, ang may kasalanan dapat makulong. Ang kasalanan, ang pinagdakawan ng bayan ay dapat pagbayaran. So the government has to be firm and show that it's indeed serious in addressing corruption by jailing those who are really guilty of corruption.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're General Bato. Oh, that's right. Sige, General Bato de la Rosa.
Kala ko nakalimutan na niyo ako eh.
Kinalimutan ka ni Pia, sir.
Sir, how can we forget you? Yung signboard eh.
Yes,
Go ahead, sir.
The president is kawawang-kawawa na talaga. Kawawa na dahil ayaw niyo maniwala eh. Makinig mo lang kayo sa akin. Saan may nangyari na ba na presidente na yung bold ng bob na ginawa niya na tinanggal niya lahat ng custom dahil nga gusto niya magbago, nilagyan ng mga sundalo? Meron na ba nangyari yan sa history ng Pilipinas? Wala pa. Grabe na lahat na lang iniisip ng presidente gawin para mawala ang korupsyon. Kaya ako nag-decide na tumakbong senador kasi pag ako'y nanalo, mag-file ako ng bill na death penalty for sa mga korap na politiko. Death penalty sa korupsyon, dapat. Para mahinto, once and for all. O ayaw na naman ninyo.
Alright. Umiinit na, no? Okay, we are moving into a commercial break. Audience, please. Audience, we are moving into a commercial break. But before that, first, another yes or no question. Please, candidates, prepare your signboards. Magsabi po kayo ng totoo, ha?
At pawang katotohanan lamang.
Are you considering running for higher office in 2022? Considering, yes or no?
Considering
yes or no?
lang.
Considering running for higher office. Yes or no? Magsabi kayo ng totoo. Lahat no. Okay, lahat daw no, ha?
Walang
They are not
tatakbo ulit.
considering running for higher office in 2022. Let's check back with them in 2022. We are live here at the University of the Philippines Theater at UP Diliman with 8 candidates who want to serve in the 18th Congress. Thank you, candidates, for joining us in the first of this series of senatorial forums. When we return, we'll ask you about train and traffic. Stay with us.
Train and traffic. Welcome back. An estimated 18,000 seats are up for grabs in next year's midterm elections. Dozens are running for senator, but only 12 seats will be contested. And today, we are talking to 8 senatorial candidates.
We are asking them questions on issues that mean a lot to us Filipinos, and traffic, of course, is one of them. This next question will be answered by all the candidates, starting with former presidential advisor Francis Tolentino. Question: our country loses 3.5 billion pesos in lost opportunities every day because of traffic. If this is not addressed, it is expected to increase to as much as 5.4 billion pesos a day by 2035. What would you do as a legislator to solve our crippling traffic problems? Mr. Tolentino.
3 items. 1, we have to pass that National Land Use Plan Act. Kailangan na po ito. Yung traffic nararamdaman ngayon sa Metro Manila will happen in Cagayan de Oro, in Cebu, and other urban growth centers including Tuguegarao in the north. Kailangan maplano po natin ang urbanization because of the density and the sheer volume of people inside an urban center. Pangalawa, kagaya ng sinabi ni Senator JB, it's about time we invest in the railway system. Dito po sa Metro Manila, ang kailangan po natin 382 kilometers of rails. Ang atin pong buong railway system sa buong Pilipinas, 47 kilometers lang po yung gumagana. So we need more LRTs, MRTs, including that subway. Pero yung proposed subway, 14 kilometers lang yon. Kulang pa. We need to disperse Metro Manila. Ang proposal ko noon, build a new administrative center, and they're now building a new one in Clarkfield. Pangatlo, we really have to plan our cities, our growth areas. Yung traffic po, hindi po mariresolve overnight yan. It's been there ever since. Ang atin pong kalye, comparable po tayo sa Seoul, South Korea. South Korea has more than 3,000 kilometers of road network within Seoul alone. Sa Metro Manila po, 1,005 lamang ang kilometrahe natin sa Metro Manila. Pero ang volume ng sasakyan natin halos 2 milyon na.
Senator Sir Josmeña.
Yes, I agree with that, and I agree also that we must, for example, yung sa Metro Manila lang, hindi konektado ang ating mga roads because we have too many, what you call this, for lack of a better term, protected environments like the Forest Park.
Gated subdivision.
Hindi pwede ganun because this blocks the way to other roads. So we can only go to Quezon City by going through either España or EDSA or C5. That's all. And we cannot do that. We have to open up all the roads so that we can go through any of the roads so that when there's blockage on one, like for example EDSA, pwede tayo dumaan sa Mandaluyong or sa Shaw Boulevard. So we have to really redo this whole thing so that we can open up at least part of the gated communities. Part of the gated, not all of the gated, but part of the gated communities will have to be opened up.
Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, you're next, sir.
No, the problem of Manila is it's too congested. No? All developments are being done in the core territory of the Philippines, which is dangerous from a security viewpoint and many other things. What we should do is decongest Metro Manila. How? Create economic centers outside of a radius of 100 kilometers from the center of the city to pull out employment of our core territory, and then create throughways outside cities across the land. Over Metro Manila, add more throughways overhead, and widen the roads for entry and exit of Manila. And your housing system should be dispersed within that radius that I mentioned, and create a system of transportation to transport the people to and fro from their homes to their place of work, as you are designing the dispersal of economic activities outside Metro Manila. We are too congested here. You can no longer solve that problem unless you do a decongestion program.
Thank you, sir. Senator J.D. Ejercito.
Yes, aside from 3.5 billion pesos that we lose every day because of traffic congestion, we have about 30,000 new vehicles added to our streets every month. So that translates to about 1 million new vehicles that will be added to the streets, and 40% of that is in Metro Mega Manila area. I would still push for the railway system, massive infrastructure, because I believe that railway is the only way. Because with the 30,000 new vehicles added to our streets, in 5 years' time, if you do not move, we will have a gridlock. So we should have started the massive infrastructure, the railway system, 30 years ago. And we are 30 years behind in terms of infrastructure development. I believe that if we are able to lay down the tracks from the PNR going all the way to north, to La Union, and Ilocandia, and all the way to south, in Bicol and the Mindanao railway system, all the railway stations, all the provinces that will have railway station will be a potential growth development areas. And that is the only way that we can decongest Manila. We will create new growth development areas. That means jobs and opportunities will also be available in the countrysides. So we will already have jobs, we will have development, and we will also improve
the quality of life by decongesting the nerve centers. Thank you.
Dean Chel Diokno.
Ang dapat mabigyan ng prioridad ng ating pamahalaan ay yung mga sumasakay ng bus at jeep sa atin, hindi yung mga nakasakay sa mga magagarang kotse. Ang nagiging problema ngayon ay magpagising natin na maaga, papasok tayo ng ating trabaho, gising na alas 4, trabaho, makakauwi na tayo alas 8, alas 9 na ng gabi. Subsob na nga tayo sa trabaho, bugbog pa sa trapiko. Hindi naman dapat ganon. In other countries, they are already thinking about establishing carless cities, where we travel inside our cities by bicycle, on foot, that provides clean air, that makes us healthier. Palagay ko, panahon na rin na pag-isipan natin yan. Dahil sobra-sobra na nga mga sasakyan sa atin, ang dala-dala pa nila ay pollution, ay hindi naman maganda yon. We have to approach this from a different angle. We have to look at this as a problem of moving people, not moving vehicles.
General Bato de la Rosa.
Nasabi na lahat yung gusto kong sabihin eh. Wala na akong masabi. Yung lahat na sinabi nila, traffic management, tatlong component yan, 3 E's. Enforcement, education, and engineering. Lahat ng sinabi nila is all about engineering. Ako nga, dito ako sa enforcement. Gusto ko sanang gayahin yung ginagawa ng Hong Kong about traffic enforcement, wherein yung isang driver ay binibigyan lang ng 15 points na consumable within 2 years. Yung 15 points na yan, kapag ikaw ay nag-violate ng traffic law, like for example, overspeeding, mamainusan ng 3 points yan. Driving under the influence of liquor, 6 points. Hanggang maubos mo yung 15 points na yan na allowable sa'yo, consumable mo within 2 years, bago matapos yung 2 years, pag naubos mo na yan, you have to undergo seminar sa LTO para continuous yung education mo. Now, kung hindi mo na yan makonsume within 2 years, sa next 2 years na naman, babalik yung 15 points na allowable mo. Kaya makita mo sa Hong Kong, walang ka-traffic-traffic, kahit na Hong Kong is considered to be one of the densely populated cities in the world. Thank you.
Senator Bam Aquino.
Yung problema po ng trapiko talagang malaking problema po para sa atin dito sa NCR. Nagiging problema na rin po ito sa Cebu, sa Cagayan de Oro, sa iba't ibang mga growing cities po natin. Unang-una po sa lahat, hindi po ako mambobola. Hindi talaga yan maaayos ng 3 to 6 months. Hindi talaga. It will take years. It will take years. Pero tama po lahat ng sinabi ng mga kasama po natin. Focus on mass transport, infrastructure, development, proper enforcement. Marami po talagang kailangan gawin. At this point, nasa punto na po tayo na palagay ko, alam na natin kung ano yung kailangan gawin eh. Hindi na po ito guesswork, no? Napag-aralan na po ito, kailangan na po talagang ma-implement. At kailangan po, handa yung taong bayan na sa waybayan po, itong mga proyektong to, siguraduhin walang korupsyon, mapunta talaga yung infrastructure sa tamang lugar, wala pong patong, wala pong mga kickback po dyan. And we hope na mabantayan po ng taong bayan yung bawat isang proyekto na gagawin upang masolve po yung traffic sa ating bansa. Salamat po.
Congressman Alejano.
Economic activities attract people. So kung saan mayroong economic activities, nandoon sila, sumusunod ng tao. So ang natural magnet na yan ay dapat ilipat natin, susunod ng tao. And we should believe now, and as stated by my colleagues here, na hindi ito overnight na problema. This is a long-term problem. Ang isang solusyon, nabanggit na rin kanina, I propose that we transfer the seat of government outside of Metro Manila. Nakafile po na kami ng bill dyan last Congress and even in the present Congress because government transactions alone dito sa NCR, napakarami na po. Mga empleyado, may sasakyan, yung ahensya ng gobyerno, may mga sasakyan at na-attract yung mag-transact dito sa outside of NCR, talagang traffic. So we have to move our seat of government outside of NCR. But of course, we should develop economic hubs. para ma-disperse ang economic opportunities sa ating bayan. And right now, sa tingin ko po, hindi na po practical yung airport dito. Ilipat mo sa labas ang airport. And also, yung seaport natin, imagine nyo po, pila yung container vans dito na hindi naman pangangailangan ng Metro Manila. Doon binibigay sa iba, so hindi na dapat dumaan sa NCR. We develop other ports aside from Batangas, somewhere north, dapat meron dyan. No? Of course, we need mass transport system pa rin. No? And we need urban development plan.
All right, thank you. The next question, we'd like to hear from the two incumbent senators, Senator J.V. Ejercito and Senator Bam Aquino. Nasabi na to kanina, the country's economic managers reversed their earlier recommendation to suspend the second round of the excise tax hike on fuel next year. Senator Bam, sabi mo, parang urong-sulong. Your thoughts on this? Senator Bam, we'll start with you.
Well, nabanggit ko na rin po ito kanina, no? As early as May of this year, nag-file na po tayo ng panukala na magsisikap na tanggalin yung buwis sa petrolyo. As alam naman ho natin, kapag tinaas nyo po yung petrolyo, sinabayan mo yung pagtaas sa mundo, tinutulak po niyang pataas yung presyo ng bilihin. So we're hoping po na hindi lang po itong Enero na pagtaas yung isuspend. Ang gusto ho natin, January 2019, January 2020, pati rin po yung dinagdag ngayon 2018, dapat na pong tanggalin. Now, marami yung nagsasabi, Senator Bam, piso lang naman, 2 piso lang naman yan. Pero yung 2 pisong pong yun, ang laking bagay po niyan sa mga kapatid natin sa transport sector, sa mga kapatid po nating vendors, nagbebenta po ng pagkain, malaking epekto po talaga to sa kanila. At nararapat lang po na kung ayaw ho itong gawin ng DOF, sana po yung Senado at Kongreso, magpakita naman po ng konting leadership at itulak po talaga natin itong pagsuspindi ng buwis dito po sa petrolyo. Pinagdebatihan na po ito many times. Napakaraming hearing na po sa Senado. And more or less, yung mga eksperto mula sa iba't ibang mga panig nagsabi nga na kapag tumaas yung presyo ng petrolyo, diesel and gasoline, makikita ho natin may epekto ito dun po sa presyo ng bilihin. Gusto po nilang isuspend yung pagtaas, hindi pa naman bumababa yung presyo ng bilihin. Pagpunta nyo po sa palengke, pagpunta nyo po sa merkado, makikita ninyo, ganun pa rin naman yung presyo. Hindi pa nararamdaman ng tao yung pagbaba nitong presyo ng bilihin. Bakit nating itutuloy ito pong excise tax na to? Now, at this point, alam ko po, recommendation po yan sa Malacanang. We're hoping na hindi po sundan ng Presidente ang recommendation na ito. We're hoping po na sa kadulu-duluan ng lahat, ang magiging desisyon po niya, huwag ituloy itong pagtaas ngayong Enero. At sana po, isama na rin natin yung pagtaas sa 2020, pati rin po yung lahat ng buwis na dinagdag po ngayong 2018. Salamat po.
Senator J.V.
Yes,
Go ahead, sir.
With regards to train, I admit that we voted for it as a support to the President's call because it will be used entirely for the infrastructure development program, which I am very supportive. But the thing that really convinced me was there were two safeguards at that time that we were debating on it. But to my surprise, during the BICAM, one safeguard was removed. No? Kami po ni Bam, Senator Bam, ay nagulat din na yung safeguard on the when it reaches the 4% threshold that it can be suspended. But anyway, the eight of our colleagues went to the President a few months ago and talked to him because the effects of train combined with the skyrocketing prices of crude oil, hindi naman natin in-anticipate ito when we passed the train law. But because a lot are already feeling the crunch, we talked to the President, and because we are concerned that allies, we appeal to him if the second round of excise taxes on fuel be suspended by January. To which we were so happy because he obliged and the economic managers were present. So that was the understanding back then. And to my surprise, just last week, I received on the feed that the economic managers now have recommended that the suspension will not take place anymore because the prices of crude oil is already going down. But ang sa akin lang po, pahingahin muna natin ang ating mga kababayan. Ngayon po na nakaka-adjust na dahan-dahan, huwag naman natin sakalin agad. No? Kumbaga, hayaan naman natin na makahinga muna. So, I am in favor, I would highly recommend that the suspension on the excise taxes on, especially on petroleum products, be
will push through in this January because this will create a domino effect, as we all
Alright.
know.
Thank you, sir. Back to another yes or no question. Nabanggit ito kanina ng isa sa ating mga kandidato. Tanungin natin sila lahat. The question is, candidates, your signboards, are you in favor of granting same-sex couples legal rights and status under the current civil union bill? Yes or no? We have two. Everyone except for Gary
Congressman
Alejano.
Gary Alejano.
Sarap tanungin, pero
Maybe
hindi
during
pwede
the break,
lahat oras.
we'll ask why, the lone dissenter. You're watching a CNN Philippines special presentation. Join the conversation online on our Facebook Live or on Twitter using the hashtag #TheFilipinoVote. We are speaking with 8 senatorial candidates.
We are on the final stretch of our program. We have a few more questions coming up, among them contractualization.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to a CNN Philippines special presentation. We just have a few more questions, Pia, for our senatorial aspirants.
Candidates, thank you once again for joining us here at the University Theater here in UP Diliman. Pinky?
Yes or no? We have another yes or no question. Senate President Tito Soto says the current age of criminal liability in the Philippines is too high, even for international standards. So candidates, the question is, well, the Senate President filed Senate Bill 2026, seeking to lower the age of criminal liability from 15 to 13. Ang tanong, would you vote to approve this measure? Yes or no?
Tatlong no. Gary Alejano, Bam Aquino, and Shell Diokno, yes, for Bato.
Yes.
De La Rosa, JV Ejercito,
Senator
JP
Juan
Serge,
Ponce Enrile.
and Francis Tolentino.
Lima. We're reaching our final stretch now of the program.
Our next topic.
Our next topic right now is contractualization. The President wants Congress to take responsibility. Congress daw dapat ang magpas ng batas to end contractualization. Big business is counseling against it. This is a question for Senator Serge Osmeña, Representative Alejano, and Attorney Diokno. What change or changes to our labor laws do you think should be passed? Senator Osmeña, please go ahead.
Well, we have to end the endo. That is not fair because yung mga tao na hinahire nila ng 5 months, hindi pwede kumuha ng extra money tungkol sa temporary lang daw sila. At parating 5-5-5 lang yan. So, after 5 months, out naman sila at saka hindi makakakuha uli ng trabaho until they apply again. So, ang hirap niyan because you're cutting short the term of office when the guy is probably good and can do the work. But ayaw lang bayaran ng husto. So I think that we should end the endo.
Thank you, Senator Serge Osmeña. Representative Alejano, go ahead, sir.
Tingin ko the government must walk the talk. Dapat unahin muna ng gobyerno na gawing regular yung kanyang casual at contractor employees na umaabot ng almost 800,000. Kasi bago pa natin puwersahin ng pribadong sektor, nag-ihehemplo na yung gobyerno dahil napakalaki po ito, 800,000. Imagine, umaabot ng 20-30 years nagtatrabaho na casual pa rin. So tingin ko unahin natin yan. Pangalawa, ako ay for good labor. At i-discourage natin yung tamad. Kasi ang issue dito habang pinoprotektahan natin ang mga manggagawa natin sa mga abusadong employer, we should not also forget na bigyan natin ng patas na treatment ang mga mamumuhunan sa ating bansa. Dahil kung walang investor sa ating bansa, lalong dadami ang walang trabaho. So, balance dapat yan. Dahil at the end of the day, it should be our economy that should grow para mabawasan yung kompetensya sa trabaho. Up to now, ay meron ho tayong 10 to 11 million na jobless. Kaya nag-aagawan talaga sa trabaho. So sa akin po, dapat tingnan din natin ang kapakanan ng mga mamumuhunan at i-balance ho natin ang kapakanan ng ating mga gawa.
Thank you, sir. Attorney Chell, go ahead, sir.
Matagal na ang problema itong contractualisasyon, hindi lang sa private sector, pati na rin sa gobyerno. Naalala ko, bago pa na akong abogado noon, may lumapit sa akin mga government employees. Ganun na nga ang problema. They are treated as casuals, as contractuals, when they have been serving the government for so long. Tama lang na tapusin na itong issue ng endo at contractualisasyon. At hindi lang siya masama sa atin bilang sa ekonomiya, kundi sa hustisya din. Yung issue kasi ng contractualisasyon ay there has to be a fine line drawn between legitimate outsourcing of not what are considered not core services and those that are used by companies simply to cut labor costs. And I hope that this law will address that issue as well. Pero may isa pang bagay sa ating workforce yung bagay ng gender discrimination, yung bagay yung nagiging problema sa ating mga kumpanya, hindi lang naman sa pribado sector, pati sa pampublikong sektor, ng malaking pagkaroon ng diskriminasyon, lalong-lalo na sa mga kababaihan at yung mga tinuturing nilang kakaiba, ay dapat din ma-address po yan ng ating legislation.
All right, thank you, sir. Maraming salamat. Pia,
Right, finally.
this is our last question.
Final last question.
And this last question is obviously for all senatorial aspirants. We're going to start with Senator JV because you're a little bit in the middle. Diyan po tayo mag-uumpisa. To your right, pagkatapos si Attorney Chell, etc. Tapos pagkatapos ni Congressman Gary, to your left, si Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, to Secretary Francis Tolentino. So,
yeah. But before we do that, we're going to go to a very short break, our final commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to CNN Philippines special presentation, Senatorial Forum. This is the very last question.
Yung
for all
sinabi natin
candidates.
kanina, we start with Senator JV.
Yes, si Senator JV Ejercito muna. And the question is, you have 1 minute and 30 sorry, oh my goodness, 1 minute and 30 seconds each. Pero you can choose not to use your entire time allotment. The question is, what is the first bill you will author if elected as senator? Senator JV Ejercito, kayo po muna.
Well, I would like to be consistent and I would like to push for, again, my advocacy on infrastructure development and transport modernization. I filed a bill for the emergency powers to address the transportation crisis in the 16th Congress, and I would file again, and in the 17th Congress, I would file again once I have the chance to be elected. And I would like to pursue this because, again, we cannot wait any longer. We are 30 years behind in terms of infrastructure development. So for us to be able to stimulate economic growth, for us to reach our full economic potential, we really have to do it now. We have to push for modernization of the transport and push for the infrastructure development.
Attorney Chell?
Kailangan maamendahan natin yung ating Witness Protection Act. Maraming nagmamalakas loob na humarap, mag-expose ng mga bilyon-bilyon ng korupsyon. Pumapasok sila sa Witness Protection Program dahil nanganganib ang buhay nila. Pero hindi naman sila nakakapagtestigo. They spend days, months, and years in the Witness Protection Program. They're given safe houses, they're given financial assistance, security. But it's like they're the ones in jail, while those who commit the crimes, those who are guilty of the corruption, are out there free. And then what happens is after years and years of their staying there inside the safe house, they just give up and never testify. What we need is an amendment to the Witness Protection Act that requires that upon admission into the program, the witness will be allowed to testify within a period of 6 months. Everyone he will incriminate or she will incriminate will be allowed to have a lawyer during that testimony, and that testimony will now form part of the trial, even if the trial takes place 5 or 10 years later. We can immediately give that witness a new identity, we can immediately relocate them, and their job is done. They have exposed the corruption and we have better accountability in our country. Ang problema kasi sobrang laganap ang corruption sa ating bayan.
General Bato de la Rosa.
Ang pinakaunang bill na ipapasa ko, sinabi ko na kanina, yung restoration sa death penalty doon sa mga drug traffickers. Dahil para magkakaroon tayo ng deterrence, kasi kung wala yung batas na yan, babahain pa rin tayo ng shabu dito sa Pilipinas sa mga tao niyan. When you come to the crossroads on choosing whose life are you going to save, itong buhay ba ng thousands of Filipino na kabataan o itong buhay na itong isang Chinese drug lord na sumisira sa kabuhayan nitong mga libu-libong mga kabataan? Pumili ka. Pumili ka kung kaninong buhay isi-save mo. Ako talaga, isi-save ko itong kabataan at itong drug lord ay talagang finish na yan. Di ba? Yun lang sa akin. Yun lang sa akin.
Senator Bam Aquino. Senator Bam, please go ahead. Please, audience. Audience, please. Senator Bam,
Opo.
go ahead.
In the 17th Congress, napasa po yung libreng kolehiyo. Yun po, una pa lang sa napakaraming kailangan na reforma sa edukasyon. Alam po yan ng mga estudyante, alam po yan ng mga teacher, alam po yan ng mga SUC heads, alam po yan ng CHED. No? Kanina si Chairman Popoy nandyan. Yung libreng kolehiyo po, si Kong Gary voted for that, Senator JV voted for that also. Nagkaisa ho kami upang itulak po yung libreng kolehiyo sa ating bayan. Pero yan po, una pa lang. Marami pang kailangang reforma ang kailangan gawin. Yung pagpapaganda ng ating state universities and colleges, yung sapat na tulong sa pribadong universidad at kolehiyo, yung tulong sa mga guro. And most importantly, ito po yung gagawin ho nating pet bill for the 18th Congress kung pagpalain po tayo, yung pagsigurado na yung bawat graduate natin, both at the grade 12 and at the 4th year level, mas madali po yung proseso ng paghahanap po ng trabaho. With the Free College Act, doon po sa libreng kolehiyo, mas madali na po makagraduate. Yung makapasok ng freshman year, mas malaki na po yung chance na makagraduate ng senior year. Yung next challenge po natin dito, masigurado po natin na 3rd year or 4th year pa lang, or grade 11 or grade 12 pa lang, alam na kung saan papasok. Ibig sabihin yan, yung jobs mismatch, mas liliit, yung academic industry linkage, mas magiging maganda, magkakaroon po ng mga trabaho centers, yung ating K-12, our grade 12, and our 4th year college students, and that process, nakapag-aral ka, nakakuha ka ng trabaho, natupad yung mga pangarap mo, meron kang regular na trabaho, yun po dapat mas madali para sa ating mga kabataan.
Congressman Gary Alejano.
Well, ang una kong i-propose na ipasa ang pag-create ng dedicated Department of Maritime and Oceanic Affairs. Bakit? Dahil tayo ay isa sa pinakamahabang coastline sa buong mundo, 36,000 kilometers. Ang ating katubigan ay around 5 to 6 times or 6 to 7 times bigger than our land. Kailangan natin magkaroon ng harmonized policies sa ating mga karagatan, pating mga ahensya ng gobyerno na nag-ooperate sa ating maritime domain, kailangan magkaroon ng harmonized policy because it will entail strategy sa ating katubigan. We are an archipelagic nation, a maritime nation, dahil pagkain din po ito, hindi natin nagagamit ang resources mula sa karagatan. Pati na yung mga strategic mineral resources, gas and oil, and even deuterium. No? Pati na rin yung pag-exploit ng Benham Rice, pati yung strategiya natin sa West Philippine Sea, at makukover lahat yan pag meron tayong Department of Maritime and Oceanic Affairs. Because right now, kanya-kanya ho tayo at pinababayaan natin ang ating karagatan. At yun nga, nakakalungkot na tayo, isang maritime nation, nag-aangkat pa tayo ng galunggong. Ang nakakalungkot pa, sa China pa natin aangkatin ng galunggong na ito. So hindi po dapat, ano? Kaya nga,
Ang sa akin, para maging matibay ho tayo, masasarha ang ating mga porous borders, kasama yung sa pag-modernize ating Coast Guard, ating Philippine Navy. Yung ating karagatan ay dapat nating alagaan.
Thank you so much, Congressman Alejano. Let's go next to... Okay, next is Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, sir.
Simple lang ako eh. Pag ako ay sinuwerte na makabalik sa Senado, unang gagawin ko, re-revisahin ko lahat yung mga ipinataw nila na mga buwis sa taong bayan. Pangalawa, tatanungin ko kung bakit napakabagal ng ating system of communication sa bansa. Doon sa aking area, hindi ako makatawag eh. Gagalaw lang ako, napuputol. Pangatlo, bakit ang mga tao na binibigyan ng mga pabahay ng gobyerno ay maraming reklamo, maraming problema, hindi kompleto ang kanilang mga titulo, ang kanilang mga papeles, at na nahihirapan sila na isolve yung kanilang mga problema. Ay malilit na tao yan eh. At pang-apat, bakit hindi malakas ang daloy ng investment, foreign investment sa atin? Ano bang balakid niyan? At pang-lima, bakit napakabagal ng mga papeles sa gobyerno?
Thank you so much, Senator Juan Ponce Enrile. Now let's go to Senator Serge Osmeña.
You're asking me which bills will I propose?
What's the first bill you'll offer?
Well, the first bill I offer is the one I spoke about earlier, the rice. Now, the second bill has to do with the coconut. Our coconuts have already collapsed from 40 pesos per kilo to about 20 pesos per kilo. That's because there's low demand. That's because in the world market, we've been overtaken by palm oil. We have to redo the coconut industry here because our trees are senior citizens trees. They're 75 to 100 years old. So mababa na yung kita nila. So we have to replant. But that 100 billion pesos that's in the coconut fund, that's supposed to be spent over 10 or 20 years. No, we have to spend that in 5 years so that we can replant the coconut. The third bill I'm going to propose is the TESDA. Our labor force does not even fit our need for labor. For example, dito lang in the very basic, the construction industry does not have enough people. That's because they don't know how to. Am I finished? Yeah.
Go ahead, sir. 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
They don't know carpentry, they don't know. So we've got to get TESDA heavily involved, about 15 to 20 billion pesos a year, to help these young kids go into that.
Thank you, sir. Secretary Francis Tolentino, last.
Tatlo po, sa karanasan ko po sa mga kalamidad, sa nakikita ko po kagaya nung sa Marawi kanina, kailangan natin yung mabilis na pagbangon ng ating mga komunidad. We need to establish that Philippine Reconstruction Agency, an agency solely dedicated to the rehabilitation of a community affected by a natural or man-made calamity. Asa po yun. Pangalawa po, kagaya ng sinabi ni Senator Serge, we need to support our farmers. Ang nakikita ko po rito, we have to have an agricultural export processing zone. I-process na po natin yung ating mga fish products, yung tuna, yung ating pong coconut products, yung copra, at maging yung bigas. So, kailangan pong pang-export quality po yun. Hindi po yung sa EPSA lang na manufacturing. Kailangan may agricultural component. At pangatlo po, kanina po ako umiinom ng tubig dito. By 2025, we will have a water crisis shortage. 9 million Filipinos do not have access to potable, safe drinking water in their households. Kailangan po magkaroon tayo ng isang bukod na kagawaran, Department of Water Resources Management. Pagsamasamahin na po yung trabaho ng LUA, Natural Waters Resources Board, para mga Pilipino, yung mga bata hindi magkaroon ng sakit, diarrhea, typhoid fever, at marami pang iba.
Secretary Francis Tolentino, maraming salamat po sa inyo. And of course, we'd like to thank everyone. That concludes today's Senatorial Forum.
And we're going to call our guests
Isa-isa ho, sana.
one by one.
Para to give recognition to each senator who joined us this evening na po ata. Sa Pia, let's start with
Congressman Gary Alejano, sir.
Please stand up, sir.
Dito po. Parang yung opening lang. Senator Bam Aquino. General Bato de la Rosa. Attorney Chel Diokno. Senator J.V. Ejercito. Senator Juan Ponce Enrile. Senator Serge Osmeña. And of course, Secretary Francis Tolentino. Gentlemen, maraming salamat po sa inyo. I'm Pia Ontiveros. And I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to our next senatorial forum or even perhaps a debate once the campaign season begins in February. Parang kampanya na ang UP Theater. This has been a CNN Philippines special presentation, the Filipino Votes Senatorial Forum. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
You are watching a CNN Philippines special presentation. I'm Cherry Mercado. We have just concluded our senatorial forum. 8 senatorial candidates in next year's midterm elections: Representative Gary Alejano, Senator Bam Aquino, former PNP and Bucor Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa, human rights lawyer Chel Diokno, Senator J.V. Ejercito, former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, former Senator Serge Osmeña, and former presidential political advisor Francis Tolentino. They all weighed in on current issues the country is facing. Let's first check on the situation in the University of the Philippines in Diliman, where the forum was held. Our senior correspondent David Santos joins us live. David, how's the atmosphere there?
Well, Jerry, this spirited debate here at UP this afternoon or early tonight is leaving our audience wanting for more. There's still so much more topics to be covered. Behind me, we're just outside the UP Theater, and behind you can see people, those composing the audience are now leaving the auditorium. Now, there was some heckling and booing, particularly when former PNP Chief Bato de la Rosa had to defend the Duterte administration's anti-corruption drive, then the discussions on our relations with China, also the present government's war on drugs. They also drew a lot of reaction from the audience. Now, how candidates, we would just like to point out that how candidates were selected to join today's forum. Well, invitations were given out weeks ago, months ago even. Those who came this afternoon were the ones who accepted our invitation. There was also a question why there were no women candidates present. Now, as explained earlier by our hosts, Senator Grace Poe, Nancy Binay, Cynthia Villar, Representative Pia Cayetano, Amy Marcos, even Advocate Samira Gutok Tomawis were all also invited, but they apparently had prior commitments. Now, candidates were given equal number of supporters that were allowed to watch the forum live. Of course, Cherry, this is just the first of a series of forums CNN Philippines is hosting leading to the 2019 midterm elections. We are hoping that more candidates will take advantage of forums like these so voters can know them better, where they stand on very important issues our nation is facing today.
David, there was also a touching question about a lady from Marawi asked, teary-eyed, on what these senatorial candidates are planning to do with Marawi. Any other interesting questions from the audience?
There were actually, Cherry, because this is only a 2-hour debate, and admittedly, there were quite a number of members of the audience approaching us, telling us, baka pwede pa kami magtanong. There was a question, yung nakakatuwang yes or no votation. There was ones who proposed na baka pwede itanong sa mga kandidato kung they are in favor of the President Duterte's proposals to form death squads. Pero hindi na ito naitanong. May mga tanong, there was a question about martial law, rather the Marawi rehabilitation administration, some senators were saying dapat ituloy pa rin ang reconstruction, dapat maging transparent ito. And then there was also about martial law and a lot of other topics. Pero yun nga, no, Cherry, there are so many topics that being brought to us, pero apparently we have very limited time, Cherry.
But also, David, would like to let our audience know that we do intend to have a series of senatorial forum with other candidates that we invited. David, isang tanong na lang kasi naririnig nga natin yung mga cheering and booing kanina. We just want to let our audience know that each candidate were given equal number of guests from their own sides. Hindi ba naimbitahan?
Tama ka dyan, Cherry. Each of the 8 candidates were given an equal number of supporters to be allowed into the UP Theater. In fact, you can actually tell them by the shirts that they were wearing if you were here. No, some were wearing orange, some were wearing white. Apparently, these are the colors that represent their candidates. Equally, binigyan sila ng opportunity, ng number of supporters to attend to this forum. Hindi lahat ng mga candidates were able to fill up that certain number. So certainly, you can hear kanina siguro from the background that there were candidates getting some boos and getting some praises at the same time, cheers and jeers. But, you know, we just like to point out that all of the candidates were given the equal opportunity to invite supporters to attend to this forum, Cherry.
Maraming salamat. That's David Santos, our senior correspondent, reporting live from Quezon City in UP, where we held the Senatorial Forum. Now, let's go back to our guests on the studio to take a deeper look on the candidate stand on some issues that were discussed in the forum. We're still being joined by political analyst Professor Ed Tayo, Professor Mon Casiple, and of course, former Commissioner Goyo Larrazabal. So, your thoughts? Did anyone stand out? Meron ba yung talagang napakita nila kung sino sila, ano yung stand nila? Of course, merong mga, it's not a surprise anymore. We know what their stands are on certain issues. Professor Ed.
Well, sa akin ang stand out talaga yung hindi nila naintindihan yung systemic na issue eh. Ang dami dyan mga proposal to create new departments and everything, but and there are those who would say that what we can do is to amend a particular law like the local government code, but actually problem is precisely enforcement. Even if you look at the 1987 Constitution, your social justice provisions are all there, they are all good, except that you can't really implement them. You know, what happened was you created a government that is so enervated to the point that it can't do so much. Tapos ang ginawa nating reform approach, tingi-tingi o tawag dito, one after another. Ganon din yung proposal ng karamihan dito. Siguro ang sa akin ng standout lang dito yung approach ni Senator JV na emphasizing on mass transit system, no, instead of looking at traffic in terms of enforcement and limiting number of vehicles. Standout sa akin yung credit na kiniklaim ni Senator Bam Aquino on free education. I mean, the facts will speak for itself, no, as far as that particular program is concerned. And lastly,
sorry, what are you questioning there about the claim of Senator Bam?
Credit for the Free Education Act.
No? That he's not entirely to be credited for that.
Actually, if and when he can be credited, it's equally for all the senators that supported it. It's a very popular measure in the first place, no? So how can you credit yourself for that? Lastly, yung sinasabi ni Senator Osmeña na ang federalism daw ay predicated on self-sustaining regions, you can't find one federal government or country that has self-sustaining regions. Lahat yan merong fund transfer system. No? So talagang, at the end of the day, all we're saying is, many of our legislators really fail to look at the more, far-reaching reforms that they can push for.
And we will continue to get the thoughts, the insights of Professor Mon and, of course, Commissioner Goyo after this short break. We'll also check how the netizens are reacting to CNN Philippine Senatorial Forum when we come back. Welcome back to CNN Philippines special presentation. Now let's get to the pulse of the audience at the Senatorial Forum. Our senior correspondent Ina Andulong is with some of the students who attended the event. Ina?
Sherry, well, most of the members of the audience here earlier have already left, but as you mentioned, I am here with 3 students of journalism from the University of Santo Tomas to tell us about what they thought about the forum. Earlier, I have here with me Jordan, Katrina, and Julie. They are a 4th year from UST. So what are your thoughts and what's your take on how the forum was earlier?
Well, I can't help but think that there should be more things like this, forums, debates, because it gives the people and the audience watching around the country a better perspective of the people who they'll be vying for the midterm elections.
Ikaw, Katrina, nabitin ba? I mean, it was already 2 hours long, but some clearly parang wanted more questions asked. How about
Personally ako, nabitin ako, pero I think sana din, siguro kasi nga hindi po lahat ng senatorial bills ay nakarating, and sana the next time they something like this happens again, maka-attend din yung ibang senators.
Julie, ikaw, what was your favorite part of the forum? Was there any candidate that stood out for you?
Honestly po, wala naman po talaga. Lahat po sila nakapagsabi ng mga points nila, and I think they are outstanding in their own way. Sa tingin ko lang po, dapat po nabigyan po sila ng chance i-explain yung mga yes or no nila. Kasi obviously, merong reason behind those answers. I think that should be considered po.
Okay. And were there topics perhaps that you want discussed further? Ikaw, Jordan.
For me, the contractualization was discussed, but I would have loved to hear more sa lahat rather than just 3, because we picked 3 in each topic. But that's all right. Maybe perhaps in the long run or sa susunod na mga forums, it'd be.
Okay, now Jordan was earlier saying that he's hoping na magkaroon ng ganitong more forums in the future ahead of the elections. But how big of a factor ba are these forums in when it comes to casting your votes next year?
This is really big talaga kasi it gives insight sa mga students and sa mga voters din, sa Filipino voters, kung sino talaga yung mga dapat piliin and dapat iboto dito. Kasi syempre nakita natin dito yung opinions and yung insights nila about different issues and problems na kinakaharap ng Pilipinas, and I think malaki talaga yung factor na makakontribute nito sa
Okay, thank you, you 3, you guys, for staying a little longer after the forum. You know, Sherry, hindi lang, or I mean, Jordan isn't the only one here we spoke to wanting to see more of these forums. Of course, we will be giving that to our audience in the months ahead, of course, before next year's midterm elections. Sherry?
Thank you very much, Ina. That's Ina Andulong from UP. You're watching a CNN Philippines special presentation. We'll have our guests assess the forum when we return. Please stay tuned. Hashtag The Filipino Votes makes it to the top trending topic on Twitter as CNN Philippines sits down with 8 senatorial candidates to talk about their plans and their advocacies. Here are some reactions from the netizens. This one questions why Bato de la Rosa had to copy answers from his party mates in the senatorial forum. She asks, what does de la Rosa stand for? Another Twitter user praises Mama Aquino and Gary Alejano for being great public speakers. He adds, such clarity is what we need now and what we will need in the Senate. This netizen wants to know why Alejano is against same-sex marriage. Yun yung sinasabi natin, hindi na sila nagkaroon ng pagkakataon magpaliwanag. This was in the yes or no question, hindi ba? At siya lang, ang yung against same-sex marriage. Diba? Lahat sila are in favor of same-sex marriage. So there goes the hanging question, why is he not in favor? But yeah, so we still continue, sabi nga ni Professor Ed Tayo kanina, yung sistema, no, ang kailangan din bigyan, pagtuunan ng pansin kasi meron silang mga gustong, yung huli nating tanong, anong bill ang isusulong ninyo, pero hindi naman mababago yung sistema, hindi ba? So now we'd like to get the thoughts and maybe the parting message of Professor Mon.
Well, there's only one thing I can say, no? The debate format is not exactly the one I noticed. kasi binigyan natin lahat ng pagkakataon magsalita. Kung tingnan mo yung presidential debate in 2016, I think mahalaga yung magkaroon sila ng meeting of minds, tawag doon na talagang makita, hindi yung stock answers, pero yung spontaneo, yung mga actual na personal na mga views, not the party views, quote unquote. So I would say it's successful, but it can become more interesting if the CNN would really go to the in-depth na approach. Meaning, ano ba talaga yung nasa likod ng mga sinasabi na? Like yung sinasabi mong same-sex marriage position, no? Si Bob, nagulat ako. Bakit ayaw ng medicinal marijuana? Mga ganon. So, mga ganon, I think, mahalaga sa audience to really know who the candidates are voting for.
Okay, Commissioner Boy.
First off, congratulations to CNN Philippines for hosting this. No, this is the first of a series of forums. No, it's good job. Maraming na-discuss kanina, but like I mentioned during the break, no, there are some omissions na medyo glaring. For example, bakit walang discuss or wala nag-propose about something to help the OFWs? Parang the OFWs, ang laki ng tulong sa economy. They've done a lot, they're doing a lot for the economy, but no one took the initiative to put it into the discussion. And second thing, kung taga-Bisaya ka, parang sa kadugay sa storya, why naghisgot or walang nagsasabi, there's no one who said anything about the Visayas. Parang unsay buhato nila or plano nila about sa Visayas, unsay proposal nila na to make the Visayas better, why nagsulti. So sana, sa next forum, somebody will take the initiative to talk about what about the Visayas. Kasi we talk about Luzon, we talk about Mindanao, but Visayas is a big voting bloc. Kaya mga Bisaya sa Luzon na they have a say. So I think they should focus on that voting bloc.
Ano bang fearless forecast nyo for 2019? May 2019, kasi nga masikip ang 12 at marami ang pangalan na matunog, maraming incumbent, maraming first-timers lang pero malakas din and they have something to offer. Maybe a quick message to the voters as they digest our candidates.
Yung fearless forecast, tanungin mo ko ulit after the holidays. I can probably make weigh in on that already. But right now, it's quite early. As far as the voters are concerned, again, sana mas malalim yung magiging diskurso later so that when you finally decide who you're going to vote for, you could very well pick really who's going to be competent in the Senate and can very well serve as your voice there. No? Hindi yung puro palliatives lang. No? Meron kang issue sa maritime, maglalagay ka ng departamento doon. How would that reconcile with existing departments? So instead na focused yung ating approach sa mga issues, nagiging fragmented lalo.
Okay, thank you very much. Short messages, Professor?
Just one. Since this is a senatorial contest, national issues are logical. Pero I agree. You need to focus also on territorial, also on sectoral.
Yes.
To get
Specific
the
sectoral and smaller issues.
Tip to the voters, don't be lazy. Research. Ask about your potential candidates. The Google is your friend. I mean, say, kung may
Use
nakita
Google. It's there for you.
Ask if there's a particular candidate who has a position on an issue, research about it. Maybe the candidate you didn't consider might be the right candidate to advance your issue. So, research.
Thank you very much to our three gentlemen guests.
Thank you for having
this afternoon and this evening. We extended, but you stayed here with us. Thank you so much. This has been a CNN Philippines special presentation, The Filipino Votes, the Senatorial Forum. Thank you for joining us. I'm Cherry Mercado.